Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Play fake. Paul with time again. Floats it into the end zone. And oh, what a catch for a touchdown by Samson Nakoa. My goodness. Just ripped it away from the defender.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Jerome Ford, big seam. Jerome Ford is revving and tearing it up. Touchdown, Cincinnati, 79 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
See if Johnson has time. Here comes the pressure. Lets it go. It is caught. Jerome Jenkins. 28-yard strike.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears sick him. Monterey Baldwin.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Today already on the chat, Scotty, Paula, Ferris, Ward, and the DA and GMAC. Thank you very much for all being on already with us as we bring you the next 3 hours of Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And again, it's the first week of the college football season, then full throttle games everywhere starting next week. We'll have a note about Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, nothing about realignment, just about his tour. Also, a note about Marshall running back Rasheen Ali. We'll have that today. Nick Saban got a bump in pay. And then also, Craig, a note from John Alran, Sports Business Journal, about the Big Ten contract TV deal and how it also may affect what, if in fact ever, Notre Dame is involved. Also, Phil, David, Bailey, Paula, and a show memo now a part of our chat room. Thank you again for all of you joining. We're going to hear from Iowa State today, from Michigan today, Baylor's Mack Rhoades today. We'll also hear from Chris Vanini. He and Nicole Arbach did a story about the top 40 rising under 40 stars in college athletics, college football. And we'll also have, of course, John McClain, the Hall of Famer. Paul, his top 5, and Craig's off the radar. Let's start with, this was Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, who writes and covers Texas Tech. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has been to TCU, K-State, Iowa State, Texas Tech on what he called his listening tour. He told me last week he'll be at Kansas Monday, Oklahoma State today, that's Tuesday, Baylor tomorrow, West Virginia on Thursday. So that is the Brett Yormark, and he had said when he was at the media days and introduced it, he was going to make sure he went to every single city, because one of the questions we had, would he understand Manhattan or Lubbock or Waco or whoever else? And so he's doing that, as he mentioned, with his listening tour.
Yeah, I'm sure the first thing he's listening about is how can you make us more money? That would be the first thing. And the other thing is, I'm sure everybody has specific demands or specific things that they like or don't like. So it's good, I'm sure Bob Bowlesby did a similar thing, but he was more familiar with the college athletics landscape, and he'd kind of been all over the place. This Brett Yormark might need to do a couple of these things because, again, he's not been in this world.
Maybe do them during games, whether it's football, men's basketball, or whatever sports we're talking about as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear what those conversations were like. I don't know that we'll ever really know too many of the details, but I'd be interested to know just kind of with each one what sort of the theme of it was. I'm sure there's one prevailing theme for all the schools that he's visited, and that's the future of the Big 12 and their futures individually and him trying to make that as secure as possible. But, I mean, at the same time, that contract comes up in 2-3 years, and here we are, and the whole world's on fire outside of their house. So, I'm sure there's a lot that has to do with, what the future looks like and what he plans on that future looking like for the Big 12 in particular. But, outside of that, individual interests, I'd be curious to kind of know, what each school touched on. But, again, I know we won't probably hear too much about that. But great that he's doing it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And, that was one of my questions was, how's a slick talking guy from New York City, gel with, Iowa State and Baylor and Texas Tech. And, it's not that hard to imagine. I mean, he's a business dude and it's all business at the end of the day. But I do think it's smart on his part to at least go and sort of ingratiate himself and get to know the landscape that he's going to be, having control over.
It's going to be important. I mean, he's the guy that everyone's leaning on and expecting to be able to figure out ways to make more revenue as things move forward, even with 3 years left on the current TV deal. If you were not a part of the show in the last half hour or so yesterday, I want to go back to something that we mentioned and was released yesterday. Jack McKenzie, Brian Etheridge, his wife, all a part of the press release. We will start on Monday, September 5th, a 1 hour. It will be from the show we do that specific day, whatever weekday it is. And at 10:30 on the CW channel locally, there will be a 365 tonight. It will be with our interviews or guests or topics or whatever it might be every single 10:30, every Monday through Friday on both on the CW channel with what we do. Again, 365 Sports, 365 tonight. That starts Monday, September 5th. And 2 days before that, the game with Albany, along with all 12 regular season games, home and away. Our pregame show from here in the studio will be also on either KWTX, the CBS affiliate locally, or on the CW channel based on the kickoff. We cannot tell you how thrilled we are. It was great to see Darby and Chris yesterday evening at the function that was with Baylor Athletics. We appreciate, and Josh Young as well. Now, one other note. Then this is a kind of a tough note with Rasheen Ali. So last year, he ran for 1,400 and some yards, 23 touchdowns. Rasheen Ali, this is his head coach, Charles Huff, will be away from the team for some time. As soon as he is mentally, physically, and emotionally ready to return, he will be back. Huff today in a statement, our team staff are doing a great job supporting him, and we are looking forward to getting him back soon. So it doesn't appear to be an injury. He did not attend the scrimmage, whatever they had. Over the weekend, there were thoughts it could be for family reasons. We don't know. It's probably none of our business, but at the same, it is none of our business. But he does have a little bit of something to think about. It won't be a part of Marshall early on.
Yeah, that's tough to hear. It's probably really tough to hear for his teammates, and I'm sure they're hoping everything turns out all right for him. And I do like that we're hopefully starting to see a trend towards a focus on mental health more in athletics. I think it was ignored for a very long time.
I don't know, and it is mental health. It is maybe just needing to get away, and we understand that. But this also could be a family issue that he just needs to be away. Hopefully it's not something that's is like a bad deal, but enough to where he's going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate for Marshall fans and for him and his family, I suppose. I mean, I don't suppose that is unfortunate, but without any real knowledge of what's going on, it's just, best of luck to him, I guess, and hope it all turns out for the best for he and everybody involved.
Also today, as if, in fact, he needed one, but I don't know if anybody earns his pay more than Nick Saban, the Alabama football coach. Of course, Kirby Smart got something. Coaches get bumps all the time for their success. Sometimes they even get bumps even if they're expected to have success. It's the way it is in the business. Dave Aranda last year, remember, got himself one heck of an extension, as did Mack Rhoades and even Dr. Livingstone at Baylor. Nick Saban is back to being the highest paid football coach at a public university, paying him an average. Again, the amended deal runs through February 2030, will pay him an average of $11.7 million per year. Kirby Smart signed a new deal on average $11.2 million over 10 years, and it just keeps on the escalators, or the word, whatever you want to use. It's truly amazing, because I remember, and again, because I'm old, when the first coach got $1 million, and then it was 2.5, then it was 3, then it was 5, then it was 6, and it was 7, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And if anyone's earned that money, I'm sure there's a debate about this, but I think Nick Saban's right there at the top of the conversation.
I mean, I think you can probably debate how much he's earning but I mean, what he brings to college football and that university and the attention and what he's done. Look, the rest of the Southeast Conference owes Nick Saban for keeping that consistent.
Is he to the SEC what Nicholas Palmer and Tiger are to the PGA Tour?
I think so, because
I may be over that.
Well, no, but I mean, they're all they've had good teams that have come up and come down, throughout this run of where the SEC, quote unquote, it just means more. But he's been the constant. Everybody, LSU's won 3 national titles, but they win one and then they kind of go into a hole and reemerge later on, and then they come back. Auburn won 1, and they, haven't been back. Tennessee was kind of before this. Florida has won 1. Georgia is now up there with them, but it took Georgia some time to be not just a team that was 9-3 or 10-2 every year, losing close games or losing in the SEC title game. That took them some time to get to where they were. Alabama in this run of the SEC has been the one absolute constant, and absolutely. So he's earned that. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that a coach is making $11 million based on what we know of the game and all that. But I mean, I'm sure the university makes it back. Moreover,
it's not that ridiculous when a conference just signed $1 billion plus TV deal. And nobody probably in that entire ordeal has affected college football as much as Nick Saban over the last 2 decades. Yeah. So I think that if anybody's justifying their pay, it's someone like him. I do wonder about some of those others and the matching game, and then how that turns out to where all of a sudden just borderline national championship coaches are making $10 million in the next couple of years because that's just where the market went. Well, yeah, the market's the reason why you're now in this big problem and this big puzzle that you're trying to figure out as far as college football and money and paying and players and all the other things that have come with that. That part of the NCAA that just didn't want to recognize what everybody else saw very clearly and just thought that they could keep paying coaches $10 million a year and no one would notice that they were the only ones getting paid. And, here we are. But, yeah, if somebody deserved it, it would be Nick Saban. And looking at the highest paid SEC coaches now, you got Kirby Smart. I mean, that's fine. He just got a bump. He deserves it. He just won a national title. Brian Kelly at $9.5 million for LSU. I mean, that's based obviously on what he did for Notre Dame, but $9.5 million. Jimbo, $9 million per year. I mean, hasn't even won a division yet. Lane Kiffin, 7.25, and then Billy Napier starting out at 7.1, the 5th or 6th highest paid head coach in the SEC. So I don't know where the cap is going to be eventually on these contracts, but if Billy Napier hadn't coached down, he's already making $7 million a year. Then my goodness, it's Jimbo, average coaches are going to be making $10 million in probably the next 5 years.
So basically, here's what I heard from that.
Remember Mel Tucker? It seemed like, my God,
you see what he got. Nothing now.
Yeah. Billy Napier,
he's already 5th now.
$7.1 million, and this is his first time as a Power 5 coach. So Jimbo Fisher's national title 9 years ago is worth $2 million.
Yeah, a little
basically.
less, but yeah.
About. I mean,
Fisher's now the 10th highest paid coach. On salaries.
Yeah.
He's already 10th. He's dropped that far. Here's a couple. Dabo Swinney's 8th. I mean, okay, I'm sure if he wanted to push the envelope, 8.3. David Shaw, who I think is fantastic, but they've kind of been through a little bit of the ups and not even the ups, $8.9 million. Ryan Day, 9.5. Mel Tucker, Brian Kelly, 9.5. Lincoln Riley, 10+. It's hardball. Remember, his deal was, $7 million. Franklin, $7 million. I'm not against any of them getting every nickel, a dime, and penny. Good for them. Here's one of the things I've always wondered about, though. You guys tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but like, what's the cap though? Like, eventually, and I know I don't want to hear from Mr. Free Market, like the most annoying people on earth. That's not America. You know, like, no, I get it, but like, I mean, are we really going to be talking about paying $20 million for a college football head coach one day? Because like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think people probably thought it would be ridiculous if multiple guys are making $10+ million and we're there already.
Do you know how many NFL coaches get over $10 million?
Well, that's what I was going to get to. Is like
Sean McVay, Bill Belichick, and Pete Carroll.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to circle back to, was like the NFL coaches don't even make this much money most of the time. So that's what I mean is like, geez Louise, like at what point does it kind of have a ceiling to it? Because right now the ceiling's getting raised by Mel Tucker, by Nick Saban, by Lincoln Riley to USC, by Brian Kelly to LSU. And so there's a reason for it to have bumped up here lately. But like, yeah, what is that? I mean, are we in the new Big Ten with this, whatever this new era that Kevin Warren's, orchestrating along with Greg Sankey? Is that just going to be the norm? $15 million a year head coaches because they're all making $1 billion anyways?
Well, and it's interesting you bring that up.
It's not going down.
No, I know, yeah.
But also, Mr. Free Market is usually also the guy who is like, it's ruining college sports, and it's not going to be what we knew because players are getting paid. Well, the players were pawns in the free market.
Yeah.
So they weren't even, that's not even capitalism. That like, so the players are helping them make this money because Nick Saban doesn't get $11 million without being able to bring in good players and keep them there. So that's where it is. So that's why players are starting to see it because, again, I don't know how many of you have ever been at a job where you've gone in and asked for a raise and your boss has told you no, and then 3 days later, he goes on his boat trip, and you're like, I don't understand, like, what's going on here. That's what's kind of was going on in college football, where for a while there, the players couldn't say anything about getting paid because the coaches are getting paid, like a really good high school principal. Like, that's what they were getting in the 70s and whatever. They'd make decent money, but they weren't knocking out of the ballpark. And then all of a sudden, when you turn around and a coach makes $1 million and the players make nothing, when the coaches make $4 million and the players make nothing, when the coach makes $11 million and the players aren't making anything, the players and their families and people around them are going, well, why does this coach get $11 million and everyone else gets zero when everybody was so surprised when they got $1 million? They've now far surpassed that. Inflation or not, cost of living or not, that's huge. So people are going to want a piece of that pie.
Sean McVay estimated 15 to 18 million, just won a Super Bowl. He's the young star, hot coach. May never win another Super Bowl, but hey, good for him. Good for all of them. Good for the players, good for the coaches, good for anyone who could make more, whether it's us or anyone else. But it is amazing. It is amazing how this does not. So Kirby Smart gets a bump because he beat Alabama, wins the national title. Then Nick Saban gets a bump to be more than Kirby Smart. And then here's going to be somebody else who gets a bump. And it's not going to stop. It's part of the free market, yes, but at the same time, you wonder. And if you don't get this kind of TV money, the $1 billion or whatever it's going to be, woo.
Well, then how are you getting players? How are people getting players nowadays? You're recruiting, but NIL, and then there's then there's the other. So yeah, that's what I mean is like, how high do you go to where it's just not even feasible anymore, and how high are those A&Ms and those UTs and those Alabamas and whoever else is actually able to play in that pool? How high are they willing to go to sacrifice it all for the sake of? Would it surprise you at all if Jimbo won like 9 games this year and he gets $12 million per year starting next year? Like, would that really shock you at all? No, absolutely right. That's what I mean. So it's like, at what point do you just go, okay, $20 million's too much even for Saban? Like, where do we get to where everybody finally goes, kind of like they've had to do multiple times in college sports here recently, they go like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous now.
They also, and I've said this a million
and I'm
times,
not rooting against people making money, to be clear, for that guy that's always in the, no, I'm all for it. I'm curious, is like, at what level do you get to when you're already making more than a lot of NFL guys are?
Yeah, but part of the thing that college athletics has done is they negotiate against themselves.
Oh, all the time.
So, yeah, you probably need to keep, like, Nick Saban, even though I don't think he'd go back to the NFL would love to have him again because he's, obviously a football genius and, somebody would pay him. So, yeah, for Nick Saban, you got to pay him a lot of money to keep him out of the NFL. For Jimbo Fisher, you really don't. But, A&M's going to do that. And where's Jimbo going to go? Like, I know there was always the threat of LSU out there, but A&M has more money than LSU. So if it's about money and it's about all that stuff, then LSU, as far as the free market cannot offer. I mean, they can offer a lot, but like A&M can always top it. A&M, has all that oil money. So again, where's Jimbo going? Like, where would he go? Because he can just always get a raise. And, as long as he's 8, 9, 10 wins, they're going to be pretty happy, especially if he sneaks in a win against Alabama and LSU. And eventually, if he wins a national title, they'll give him 20. I mean, because they're crazy.
Stubby 1085, business gives NIL deals in return for publicity and increase in their business capitalism. Yes, we don't know if it's an increase in revenue. I don't know if Bijan driving around in a Lamborghini or Keontae George driving around in what he's driving around in now. I don't know. If it's going to be an increase. That's going to be what I think will be interesting in the next year, 2, 3, 5, or 10 on how much do the businesses that have the NILs, how much do they really do that for business purposes, and how much of that ends up being also ego to be a part of it.
I would say right now most of it's ego.
Yeah, I think like 90% of it's ego, and that's fine, to each their own. If you got the money, flaunt it how you want it. But, I do think a large part of it is ego, feeling like you're the one contributing. You helped land the star quarterback or whatever, you finagled. But, and then, for those who do that, that's fine. And totally legal and all that. But, yeah, there's just a lot of money flowing, and there's now a lot of money going towards, a lot of different things. And so as we enter this new chapter where – there's a lot of just mystery on the horizon in terms of who's in what and with what and how does that look and where is it headed and all these different things. Unless you're 20-something teams at this point, you are wondering about your future right now. So I'm curious to see if with these TV deals, if you start to see the SEC and the Big Ten coaches, like many of them are already on top of this list, if they just then it's 15 and then it's 20. And meanwhile, it just kind of stays the same or even craters a little bit for everybody else. What does that look like in the future? So I think, there's a lot of questions about how high does this go and how much of a gulf does it create that's already there, but how much further does it widen it?
From Eric, why do we care what they earn? Eric, we're discussing a topic that Nick Saban just received a raise and is now the highest paid college football coach in America. That's what the topic is. I don't care if he makes $9.5 or $12.5 million, but you want me not to just mention it at all? It's a story. It's like, who's the highest paid quarterback? It's who's going to be the highest paid wide receiver after an off season where a bunch of wide receivers got paid? Who's the highest revenue college football program? It's part of the story, as part of covering the sport. I want all of them to get as much as they possibly can, but to say, why do we care?
Don't really, just talking about it. But
why Alabama approves raise extension for football coach Nick Saban? Because he's the best coach in America, and he's also been the most dominant, even though last year Kirby Smart got him. To me, it's a story, it's a topic, it's a discussion, and it's not so much, I think we should care. I'm not saying we should complain or we should say that's great, but it's a story. Now, the Sports Business Journal with John Alrad, who's been all over everything, it's TV, media deals, and much more. Earlier today, Craig saw a story about the escalators and how they're built in that could be a welcoming pad, or so to speak, an entry for Notre Dame. That doesn't mean they're going to go to the Big Ten. Doesn't mean the Big Ten thinks they're going to, but looking into the future, what the escalators might mean.
Well, why are we doing that? Why do we want to talk about money? Why do we want to do that? Right, Eric? Why do we want to talk about the money?
It's all about the money right now.
Yeah.
That's what
it's kind of like what everything in college sports is about at the moment. But apparently this isn't a story, but it is. So anyways, Sports Business Journal said yesterday, this is John Alrand, he had a piece on Notre Dame, and it was of interest because of the fact that it's unique to Notre Dame in some ways. John Alrand said there are escalators related to Notre Dame that are written into the Big Ten's media rights deals with CBS, Fox, and NBC. Though, Eric, the extra dollar amounts are not public knowledge. That specific dollar figure, which is not publicly known, is spelled out in the contracts. No other school is mentioned in these deals by name, and the contracts do not assign a dollar figure to any other school that may join the conference. According to sources, Notre Dame is the only school that has specific language about escalators. So basically, Notre Dame is unique in that the Big Ten is, I guess, in so many words in these contracts, let them know, here's the exact amount of money that you could expect to be making if you were to join up with the party, whereas any other team you want to throw out there, Oregon, Washington, they do not have a precise idea of what that escalator would look like in the chances that they would join. So it's an enticement for sure for Notre Dame to know exactly what's out in front of them and whether it's enough to eventually get them to pull the trigger. I saw something earlier today. Bob Thompson, the TV exec, he was talking about, I guess, rumors he had seen. I don't remember where it originated, but he was responding to people who were saying that Notre Dame would add like another $1 billion onto the deal, and he's like, well, if they added $1 billion, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because weren't we just talking about them only getting $60 million per year? Like, that was the rumored report, which, again, like, believe what you want to believe out there. But if they're making $1 billion a year off themselves, or if they were to add $1 billion just as their own university, like, why are you joining up again? Like, why would you not be independent? Like, that, if you're making that much money and you can bring that much money to the table, like, that's where I have a little bit of a question mark, but I'm sure there's more details to it than just that.
And it's not with Notre Dame a specific dollar figure, because they don't have to share their TV money with anyone. They get it all. They don't have to split up conference when it comes to football. They don't split any of that at all. It comes all right to them. They make money off of another conference. The ACC has to kick them money for football for the games that they schedule with them because of that contract and everything, other sports that they have there. So they've got other revenue streams at Notre Dame. And so say, the per year average at the Big Ten is $80 million, and Notre Dame would be making $60 million per year. And I'm just throwing those rough numbers out there. The $20 million they're not getting is the rent that they pay to be the most powerful entity in college sports, because they don't have to answer to anybody. Jack Swarbrick is a conference commissioner, and he's in charge of one school. He has as much power as, maybe more power than Jim Phillips, than Brett Yormark, than George Kliavkov, and he's in charge of one school who gets to make their own decisions. And until they're told you need to win a conference title to get in the playoff, they're not going to change that, because why would you do that if you didn't have to take that extra step, especially if now Kevin Warren and Greg Sankey, who was always this way, are backing off automatic qualifiers in the playoffs. So that works out for Notre Dame great. They can make $60 million a year, still be the third most powerful entity in college football, and not have to answer to anyone but themselves.
Yeah, there's another part to this. I just happened to catch Eric. Eric, I'm not complaining, dude. Like, I don't know what bee is in your bonnet today, brother, but I asked a question. I wasn't complaining about the money. Like, I don't know what soapbox you're trying to command today, but I ain't the one, brother. I'm not complaining about the money. I thought I made that clear. I don't want to have to repeat it again. So just enjoy the show or don't. Like, I mean, at this point, like, geez Louise, man. So this is from Awful Announcing. With Notre Dame. That specific dollar figure, which is not publicly known, is spelled out in the contracts. I mentioned that, the no other school deal and all of that. But then it gets into, last month, CBS Sports reported that Notre Dame would require an annual media rights fee of $75 million to remain independent. I think the last update was $60 million? I think was kind of what was thrown out there last week. So they would require an annual media rights of $75 million. Last week, Action Network reported escalator clauses in the 7-year deals for the Big Ten could increase the amount from 7.7 to close to 10. To get to that amount from Notre Dame alone, the escalator would have to tack on roughly $280 million per year. So that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If Notre Dame would have to be worth $280 million a year tacking on that. So if they're worth that, again, it begs the question of, why would you join a league where you're not making it, that's just that's a puzzling question that I don't know if we're all the way in the know on just exactly what that looks like. But yeah, it would seem to favor Notre Dame once again, any negotiations and the power that they hold.
Yeah. Also, let's not forget that Notre Dame is the premier Catholic institution in this country, and they have the backing of the Catholic Church, which last I checked has some money.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a little bit, probably most of it, if anything. But yeah, that was interesting. So Notre Dame's got a special escalator for the realignment crowd, and it's quite the fee that they could be bringing in. So it's just puzzling how much they could get on their own still versus how much added value, and this obviously makes it a little bit more interesting. So curious to see what that ultimately looks like.
Jared Stansberry, Cyclone fanatic, will join us next on Iowa State, but also he does quite a bit when it comes to the entire Big 12 Conference. We'll check in with Michigan today. Baylor's AD, Mack Rhoades. Also, Chris Vanini, the Athletic, on a story about the up-and-coming stars under 40 in college football and athletics. We have everybody here, Emery and Levi and Garrett. Jacob is running the mothership as well. Also, Jack McKenzie, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you all for being a part, and we're just now starting Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Perfect time for me to talk about and discuss my dentist, Dr. Steve Childress at Stonewood Dental. I have told you about all the work, my dental work, that playing catch up from not probably taking care of it as much or as often as I should. So I had implants put in. I have an appointment next Wednesday morning for me to have the crowns checked, and they'll have them in the next month or two. Cannot wait to get back to what I used to have. And thanks to Dr. Warren for the implants and Dr. Steve Childress at Stonewood Dental for the work that he's doing. It's amazing. Got a call earlier today to set up the appointment for next Wednesday, and I can't wait. And then the crowns in a month or two as well. It's about taking care of your dental, your work, and if you don't or you haven't, or even if you do and something goes wrong, I suggest Dr. Steve Childress, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation. pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Today, up, thank you. Today, ESPN.com, heck of a story by David M. Hale. And I reached out to him to possibly join us if we possibly could tomorrow. He ranks all 131 college football teams in tiers, from the clear favorites of Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State to all sorts of different tiers. 131 of them ranked. And some of the categories are brilliant. And that doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything he's written, but David M. Hale, ESPN.com, 131 college teams in tiers for 2022.
I don't think I have the correct number.
Can we get our mics all on, please? Okay, thank you. What'd you say?
I don't think I have the correct number.
All right, I'll work on that for you right now. Okay. All right. So they're back, question mark. We know who those might be. Teams that used to be really, really good, but also now are struggling, and they're trying to get back, and they keep teasing you, and they aren't, but maybe they are. And then there's some that are just, they're gone. And there's some that are just never going to be given the opportunity, although Cincinnati forced themselves into the Final Four or the semifinals because they were just that good with the right quality win or two to put them in that position. But you haven't been there. It's a great story. We'll hope to get David on the show possibly as early as tomorrow. Now, also, one of the titles on the top, can Michigan repeat as Big Ten champs? We're going to have Angelique Shengalis on later today on the show about Michigan and also the Wolverines, who had one heck of a run last year. From Carl Adams, Nick Saban's a great West Virginia. Only someone with West Virginia could have won all those championships at Alabama. Carl, yeah, keep thinking that way. Good for you as well. And by the way, Donnell Saban was just in the right place at the right time. Seriously? No. Nick Saban's won everywhere he's been except in the NFL. Miami wasn't quite as successful.
And I think he would have wanted Miami had Miami done what he wanted them to do.
Which in the NFL, you don't have the kind of power you have as a college football coach. It doesn't appear. Not many do. We're now joined by Jared Stanberry, Cyclone Fanatic, joins us on Sick'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Jared, thanks for your time. We're on the eve, of course, that first week this weekend, a handful of games, but not many, and then we get full throttle. What are the expectations, in your opinion, with Iowa State?
Man, I think the expectation probably is just to, have a kind of a bridge team from, this past year or from these past several years in the stretch that Iowa State was able to go through and the success that they were able to have. And, I don't think anybody's looking at Iowa State as being someone who can contend or is contending at the top of the league. But I think they're a team that feels like if they get some breaks that go their way, they can certainly jump up there and win, 7, 8, 9 games. But I think to be able to get back to the postseason after having to replace, some of the pieces that they did at such crucial positions, can set yourself up for the future kind of sustaining, even though, you might not have the talent that you did at the top end of your roster that you did these last several years.
How much of a disappointment was last season when they returned more people than most teams, even some national championship contenders, return in a year and finish the way they did?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly disappointing, I think, especially the way that they lost a lot of those games. They had so much success in close games in the previous season, 2020, and then, to have some of the failures that they did this past year. I mean, a perfect example is that game down at Baylor, and to have an opportunity at the end of the game to give themselves a chance, and you fail on a 2-point conversion and fumble the snap on that play, and there's just a lot of different things like that. Football is a weird game where some years it'll bounce your way and you'll win a bunch of close ones, and some years it won't bounce your way and you'll lose some close ones. So I think that group of players saw both ends of the spectrum of that for Iowa State, which is certainly the disappointing part.
Jared, in what ways can Hunter Dekkers be better than Brock Purdy?
Well, I think he brings a more pure passer skill set than maybe what Brock did. Brock was obviously really good for Iowa State for a long time, so it's hard to knock, anything that he did. But I think when you look at Hunter, he brings a little bit more of a pure gunslinger. He can really throw the ball down the field. He's got great size in the pocket, and someone I think they feel they can utilize in the quarterback run game. So I think that the biggest thing I would pinpoint, he's going to have a better chance to stretch the field down, and keeps defenses honest probably than what Brock did. Brock didn't quite have that arm strength, didn't have that ball placement to really be able to do those kinds of things. And I think Iowa State feels like Hunter does have that, and I think they feel like they have a group of receivers that can really exploit that skill that the quarterback has.
On Twitter, it's at Jared Stansberry with URY, and also I saw where you posted up the what you do, football, and then in parentheses, and other random things. What are a couple of interesting college football or Big 12 random things you want to help with us?
Oh, man. Well, did you guys see the West Virginia hosting a 7th grade quarterback on a visit over the I don't know if it was over the weekend or last week sometime. They had a kid who, and it was like he had a ranking and all these things. He'd been evaluated by somebody who's in the 7th grade. So we talked about that for quite a while. That was a random thing.
The next Dylan Moses, I guess. Yeah. Remember, he's an 8th grader getting offered, that seems like 10 years ago at this point. But, yeah, why not? 7th graders, yeah.
I think women's basketball recruiting goes that early. I think sometimes you can, they can kind of spotlight a kid when they're in junior high or whatever. But I did not know about the West Virginia 7th grader. My gosh.
Yeah, it was funny. They had it enlisted in the scouting report. It said he's got great size at like 5'8", 125 or something like that. And we're evaluating the size of 7th graders now. So, man, I don't know if that's an indication of maybe football is just getting more or better and better with the innovations they've got, or if it means that we're failing as a society. I think you could probably go both ways when those kinds of things exist.
My rule as a coach would be if you could get thrown out of an R-rated movie when you snuck in, I would not recruit you. I would think that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's 16-year-olds getting recruited pretty heavily. I don't know.
But I mean, you could pass. Like, at 16 years old, you go in, you could pass. But like 13, you're 12 years old and sneaking into an R-rated movie, like they're sometimes obligated to like throw you out.
I want that because he's got a little edge to him. That he would do that. That's why.
Sure. What R-rated movie is he sneaking into? It might give him an extra star or something. Yeah.
Jared, you kind of mentioned at the beginning to kind of be a year to kind of bridge teams or years together. Is there a concern at all that they had their moments, even when the Big 12 championship game didn't go their way a couple of years ago, but they kind of had their stretch? Because I think what Matt Campbell's trying to bring is every year they're pretty good, and they have a chance to keep knocking on the door. But is there any kind of concern among the fan base that they had their run or had their chance and it didn't work out?
I mean, I guess like maybe. I don't know if I'd put it that way, because I still think that they certainly leveled up their program with that 2020 season to go and win the Fiesta Bowl and have some of those things be such a high-profile indicator for the program, and they've recruited better than what the program ever has previously. So I mean, I guess maybe they could have missed an opportunity to go to that like next level where you're an annual contender for conference championships and things like that. But I also just don't know, how realistic of an expectation that is for Iowa State. I mean, I think for Iowa State to be in the conversation every several years is obviously a pretty significant stride from where they've been previously. But, I think that, I guess you could look at it that way, that they missed an opportunity, but I think they feel like they've got some good teams coming down the pipe here too, because they've recruited pretty well. So they're just trying to carry things forward and see what they can do to build some momentum off what's happened the last several years.
Jared, what is Iowa State's view as far as the fan base goes of the tenuous nature of the non-Super 2 conferences now and where they think they will end up, coming through this apocalypse?
Well, I mean, I think most people are realistic that they know that Iowa State probably isn't going to fit into either the Big Ten or the SEC's plans, at least at this point. And I do think that there's a level or a feeling of comfortability in this next iteration of the Big 12. I just think that there's such a like-mindedness and kind of I don't know, a unity, it seems like, between the schools that are left, where they all feel like they're in a pretty similar position, and they can band together to make something that's, their own and make it unique and different from those other programs or from those other conferences. And I think that's what Iowa State fans are hoping for, is to see that be able to continue. But, I don't think there's near as much panic on this end as there was a year ago at this time after Oklahoma and Texas had left, for sure. I think that everybody feels pretty comfortable in where Iowa State's at.
Jared, with the season now upon us, what's the biggest question mark you have remaining for the Cyclones squad?
Oh, man. I think it just has to be Deckers. Can he be the guy that, everybody that's seen him in camp, everybody I know around the program and have talked to, they've been able to sing nothing but very high praise, and they feel really good about how good of a player he's going to be for Iowa State. If he's that good, then, I think Iowa State's got some talent at the skill positions. I think they've brought enough back on their defense to be pretty solid. But if he can't live up to that expectation, then, I could see where Iowa State's fighting to make a bowl game in the last several weeks of the regular season.
Jared, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Cyclone Fanatic, again, at Jared Stansberry, URY, with us, CycloneFanatic.com on Iowa State, and a couple of nuggets, including the West Virginia recruitment of a seventh grade quarterback, which is rather interesting. We'll have Angelique Shengelis in a minute. She covers Michigan to talk about the Wolverines.
That kid's going to have an ego on him. I mean, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, yeah, I went to go see the new Pixar movie. Oh, what did you do? A college wined and dined me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's not completely foreign. I remember Dylan Moses as an 8th grader, and that was like 10 years ago, it seems like, at this point. So I know there's been a couple others here and there of young guys getting offered or going on visits, but yeah, it seems like it's a little too young to really know enough. But hey, I'm not Neil Brown, so.
The only story I've heard about that kind of worked out was R.C. Slocum tells a story about going to Palestine, Texas, and seeing a young a kid he thought was a senior, but was really just an 8th grader, dunking a basketball and shoving everybody around on the court. And he asked the coach, he's like, all right, he was here to see some other guy. And he's like, no, I want to recruit that guy. And he's, well, come back in a couple of years, because he's only in the 8th grade. And that was Adrian Peterson.
Yeah. Sat with him during, spring drills, during high school football, his junior year. By then, everyone had heard of him, and sat in the stands and did an interview with him. Really nice young man. Always appreciated his time and his smile. And you always hear about the handshake with him, but it engulfs yours. Just this big, like he's a 7-footer.
It wasn't just dunking a basketball. He was doing that after he had watched him they were doing that. Remember, they used to do the presidential fitness test. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but he watched him.
I doubt it.
Yeah, but he watched him do the presidential fitness test, and he's like, who is this monster? Yeah, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's an 8th grader.
Danny Long, good friend of mine, played against him, and he was at Jacksonville and played. I said, hey, tell me about it. He goes, oh, my God, he's as good as – and Danny's not one to exaggerate. He's as good as I've ever seen, and he's got a year left to beat us.
Well, I like the perspective on the realignment part of it, of just basically saying, like, we're not a part of it, so like, what do we care? And I feel that, because, it's realistic. I think it's funny to see sometimes some links, like some are trying to convince themselves of like why they're Big Ten caliber, and it's like, dude, you have absolutely no shot in any world of the school you root for becoming, a Big Ten team. And, that's just the truly off the wall stuff that you get. I think most people are pretty realistic with like their opportunities or their chances. But, I have certainly seen the Iowa State crowd that feels like, oh, we're AAU, or, I've seen the argument made for why they would make, automatic rival with Iowa. And it's like, well, they already have Iowa. Why would they want Iowa State? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So anyways, like, every fan base has had that back and forth, I'm sure. But to be able to just sit back and go like, I don't know, we're probably not part of it, let's just enjoy it, I think it's probably the best way to be right now, rather than racking your brain like they were a couple years ago. And he's right. Like, whoever is in the new Big 12, I mean, maybe there's a couple of those schools that would get plucked in some like far-flung scenario where if like both were the top two were to expand to like 28 teams. Yeah, like after they get done with the Pac and the ACC and the, then maybe they come calling for Kansas basketball or something. But yeah, for most of the teams in the Big 12, this is your reality. It's going to be this new group of teams. So sit back and enjoy and make it fun.
When we come back, Angelique Shengelis, who covers Michigan for the Detroit Free Press. Mack Rhoades today at 4:20. Sick 'em, 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Boozer's Jewelers. I recently got engaged. It's been about 6 weeks, and when I went to go get the ring, I was only going to go to Boozer's. They were the only spot I was going to go to. Why? Because the quality, because of the care they take, and just because I know that Brad could point me in the right direction, because I knew not next to nothing about rings. I knew nothing. Zero. Zilch. I'd never been engaged before, so I didn't know what to do. I'm 42. I had no idea what to go in and buy a ring. So 9 out of 10 rings that they do are custom made for your very unique bride, and that's why I went there. So they did a great custom job. Amanda is up in Nashville right now doing preparations for our wedding, and everybody who sees her is like, that's an unbelievable ring. And, oh, your fiance did a great job. I didn't do a great job. I'll tell you right now, I have very little to do with it. I went to a great jeweler, and they did a great job on my ring. So I can take very little credit for it other than knowing exactly the place to go. Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies insured by NCUA.
My money, my future, my credit union, Genco.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Angelique Shingalis, Detroit Free Press, covers Michigan, Big Ten champion Michigan Wolverines. Joins us on 365 Sports. Thank you, Angelique. Thanks for your time. You just finished, I guess, wrapping up the interviews. You were a little bit worried about whether we could get you just in time, and thanks for your time. How you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm just hoping the Michigan marching band is just to my left, so I hope they don't break out into the Victors or something while we're talking. But all is well. They just Michigan just finished practice. We talked to a couple players, and this is the last push until game week finally upon us.
How refreshing is it that they don't have to ask about when are they going to win big again? Like, how much does that help just to get that off the plate?
Well, it's now they're getting, was last year a fluke. Can you do it again? Can you go to Columbus? Can you finally beat Michigan State, which has won the last two? So it's like, I think that there's still the sense of some people wondering if last year was a fluke and can they do it again? So I think that they're saying all the right things. The players are that, they want to kind of carry that chip on the shoulder that they had from that just god-awful 2020 season that they used in 2021, and they still have that. They said that, they still have a lot to prove. They got last by Georgia in the playoff game, so they want to better that. They want to win it all, and they're saying all the right things. So I guess we'll see soon when the season starts what's going on with this team.
Will they continue to use the two quarterback system with McNamara and McCarthy, or will it shift in any way?
Well, that's really the question, and Jim Harbaugh hasn't really given a solid answer on that. He says it's this, or this, and this is McNamara starting and J.J. McCarthy's backup, or the second this is J.J. McCarthy starting and Case the backup. But I thought all along that Case starts the season and they play J.J. liberally. And I asked Harbaugh last week if it would be like a Brady Henson kind of thing that everyone in Michigan saw in the late 90s with Tom Brady and Drew Henson, and it was Tom Brady starting the game, and then Henson coming in. He was scripted, and he sort of bristled at that and went off on this tangent about people saying that you have two quarterbacks means you don't have one. That's just people parroting a cliche, and he might be right. So I think his point is they have two really good quarterbacks. They feel really good about it. And I think his point overall is that they will continue competing into this season. The first four home games are at home. I think that gives them a real luxury there. And I think come Iowa, that time, I think you're going to see someone take over and at least become the leader in the clubhouse as the starter.
Angelique, I watched Alan Bowman a bit when he was at Texas Tech. Did he ever really factor into the quarterback competition after transferring up there?
No, and it's interesting you mentioned him. I was talking to some people yesterday, and they're just sort of like still puzzled why he came to Michigan. He has not been a factor. I mean, in fact, they're looking at a quarterback out of California. Warren Davis is their third quarterback. They're third on the depth chart, and I'm not sure where Allen factors in there. But everything they talk to people about him, he's great in the locker room. He's a great teammate. So in that sense, they're happy he's there. But it's always been interesting. I've never actually had a chance to talk to him, and that's one thing I'd really like to know. What was the purpose of this? You think everybody transfers because they want to play right away, and I don't think that was his motivation. He certainly wants to play, but I don't think that was his end goal.
Paul asked you about the quarterback situation, the rotation or whatever, but bottom line is their bread and butter is what they did last year, running the football. How much more balanced can they possibly be this year, or do they have to be balanced at all?
Well, I mean, they do have really good running backs back, and Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, who was a freshman last year, but they lost to Tom Haskins, and I'm just saying, I think he's a bigger loss than anyone ever really talked about. I mean, he and Corum call themselves Thunder and Lightning, and they don't have that thunder right now. They don't have that kind of that back to get to those hard yards, and they're still trying to identify the third back. I think if you're going to look at, you've got two offense coordinators here, and that's going to be interesting how they call the game. I think it'll be thrown more to coach of the offensive line, ultimately being the play caller. But they've got this is the most talented group of receivers I've seen at Michigan in a long time, and I've been covering the team for a long time. And they have a lot of different types of receivers. They've got Ronnie Bell back, who was their leading receiver in 19 and 20 and was hurt last year in the first game. So I think I think people think that you've got J.J. McCarthy with the big arm. Obviously, he's mobile. He gives the offense a little bit more of an X factor. But he's the guy who can make things happen with all of these receivers that they have. And not to mention a couple of really good tight ends, Eric All and Luke Shoemaker. So they've got a ton of talent. You think they're going to run the ball, but they've got all this talent. I think they've got to air it out at times, too.
Now, one of the things that you can't say about them is that they are weak along the lines at all. They are dudes on both sides. Is that maybe what gives Jim Harbaugh confidence to kind of say the things about, like, he doesn't seem to care which quarterback is in or not worry about having that other running back because either one of them is probably going to be upright most of the time, and then on the other side of the ball, they're going to keep the other quarterback in a panic most of the time?
For sure on the offensive line, and I think they wanted to go more last year, but this has been an upgrade for them with Oluwatimi transferring from Virginia. He was a Remington finalist, one of the three finalists, and he's taken over at center, and he just really meshed with this offensive line and the team very quickly. They have a new player at right tackle in Trente Jones. So this offensive line is I'm certain better than it was last year, and that's no knock on the guys who were there, but there's more talent. On the defensive line, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, like, where are they going to get the production that the Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo provided? I mean, they combined for 25 sacks, and it's been interesting to listen to these defensive players talk about how they wanted to be all 11, not just have the defense go through two guys. And I think that the defensive line will be good. I'm not sure. I think people should not have their expectations up. Like, they shouldn't think, who's the next Aiden, who's the next Ojabo, because that's not going to happen. But I think this is a pretty good group, and they should be solid on the defensive line too. But offensive line is definitely way up there.
Angelique, there's questions, like we cover Baylor pretty closely, and there's questions that I have that, like, everybody that follows along may not necessarily have. You cover the team as close as possible. What is your biggest question mark still remaining for the Wolverines?
Well, I'm still wondering about the linebackers. I mean, I think that they're back, and the players say that they're really good. They've got a lot of good options, and there's a lot of really young talent. I mean, there's some freshmen who I think are going to come in and make their mark on defense. But no one has really talked a lot about the linebackers. And Junior Colson's back, and he's very good. I'm just not sure. I think that's been a little bit of a weakness over the last couple of years. And I'll be curious to see how much of a step forward they take at linebacker. So,
I got a question. The defensive coordinator now at Michigan was with the Ravens. Mm-hmm. The former Michigan defensive coordinator from 1 year, Mike McDonald, had been with the Ravens. He's now back with Baltimore. Did Jim and John get on the fall and do we'll swap this guy for this guy?
Well, I mean, Jesse Minter was at Vanderbilt last year as the defensive coordinator, but I do, you do wonder how those people work and how they get this all figured out. And, I think for John Harbaugh, it was advantageous to have Mike McDonald here and to get his feet wet calling the defense and having the responsibility that goes with being a coordinator. And I never thought Mike McDonald would be in the college game very long. It was a little foreign to him. He was a pro guy. So I think maybe some people were shocked when he went back to the NFL after a year. But I thought Jesse Minter was the obvious choice. I mean, he and Mike McDonald speak the same language in terms of defensive scheme and verbiage. And I think that's what has made it. It's made it really seamless for the defensive players this year to have a new coordinator, but doesn't feel new. A little bit different personality, but everything else is the same. So they feel like it's been completely seamless.
Angelique, as always, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Glad that you had a chance to jump on. I know you had some interviews that worked out perfectly. We appreciate your time.
thank you so much for having me on. Have a good season.
You too. Angelique Shingalis from the Detroit Free Press covering Michigan. Someone in the chat room, I forgot who it was, but mentioned that from Paul Foster, Harbaugh's own brother, stole his D coordinator, laugh out loud. He was with Baltimore, was with Michigan McDonald for 1 year, went back to Baltimore. And then, of course, Minter was with Baltimore, then at Vanderbilt.
Just works for the Harbaugh family company.
Yeah, exactly right. It is the case. 4:03 is the time. The 4 o'clock hour has begun. We will have Mack Rhoades coming up at around 4:20. Craig's off the radar. That's what we have for the rest of the show. And let's break here and come back with a couple of other nuggets, college football-wise, and some of what you've said on the text line today or the chat room at Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So Saturday, after playing around at golf, there was a couple of errands that I needed to run. One of them was to run to Waco Custom Marketplace to pick up some product because they have the butcher shop and steaks and poultry, seafood, all that. It was fantastic. Glad I went by there. That was a must stop to get some things for the weekend. And also into the future of what I put on the grill. And then I stopped at Don's Humidor in the Town West Shopping Center just off Valley Mills in Waco to go by and look at the cigars they had. And Cheyenne was there. And so I set myself up for some cigars to have a chance to, when I play golf, if I get to at all during football season, to have a handful ready for me when I'm smoking a cigar on the golf course. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with incredible brands of cigars, Padron and Cohiba, Macanudo and Ashton, Rocky Patel, Romeo and Julieta, and so much more. Say hi to Cheyenne, Ashley, and Carol. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, a little bit different here, and you can, if you want, respond to the text or the chat room or the text line. We'd like to get to your answers here. I'm going to bring up, I told you about the David M. Hale article, the 131 FBS schools in the categories that he ranks them. For example, the top category of the ones who run college football, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. I think it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State in what they put. So I'm going to give you a category, Craig and Paul, and then also for the chat room, see how fast you can do this, and we're going to have this for like 5 to 7 minutes, then we break for Mack Rhoades. The category is how quickly we forget 4 schools.
How quickly we forget.
This is the second category, how quickly we forget 4 schools. You guys try to name the 4. Any of them.
I need more context than how quickly we forget.
The first category was these are guys who run football. So this is the second category. I'm sure this is from kind of like the elite to whatever it goes down. The second category, how quickly we forget. I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I am, I'm with it. That. Does that help?
Would that be like former dynasties?
One of the teams is Clemson.
Okay, so
does that help?
Yeah,
kickstart this.
So Clemson was recently dominant, and now they're not. So Clemson, I'm going to say LSU.
No.
Okay.
One of these teams is leaving for another conference in 3 years.
USC.
In 3 years.
In 3 years.
Oklahoma.
Okay.
How quickly we forget. All right, because there are some that have them ranked down.
Who was the top 4 again? Sorry.
The first 3 were Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State.
All right, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is another one, so we're missing one. We just had a guest.
Michigan.
Some of you were mentioning USC, Tennessee, Texas, whatever. How quickly we forget is Clemson, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. It's almost like, they're past. No, they're still just fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think there's a lot of love for them in the playoffs. Yeah. So I don't know if I quite agree with that because I saw somebody just today talk of Michigan in the playoff and. Yeah, so.
The rising stars. Now, this is one you're going to have to think outside the box. Schools that are getting a lot of love this year. I'd trade it all for just a little more.
Miami?
No.
Cincinnati?
No.
Baylor?
No.
Oklahoma State?
No.
Utah, is that what you said?
Utah's one of them.
Yeah.
Utah is absolutely one of them.
But Baylor's not?
No, because they're in another one that's it's kind of an interesting title. Carl Adams says Utah. Marlon, Utah. Yes. Yeah. Jason, Utah.
I'm trying to think of who else is similar. Would have been Georgia previously.
Texas. Tennessee.
No, Texas
A&M.
A&M.
Okay.
Right? Here's one that I didn't think would be a part of it. Wisconsin. They got the great running
they've
back.
been steadily great for a while. So, yeah, I'm sure they would like to get over that hump of, just being really good in the Big Ten and nationally every year, but not always being great. I guess that makes a little bit of sense.
Some are saying Houston, no, not in this list. This is, again, part of the ESPN. UTSA, no, not quite. Jason Osborne, you got it. NC State.
Okay.
And they are. They're getting a lot of love.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Here's one more. They're maybe back. Well,
Texas.
one of them we know is one, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 schools.
Miami?
Miami's another one.
USC?
USC's another one. That's probably the easiest of the categories, correct?
Yeah. They may be back, but they will get 95% of the attention this year outside of the SEC schools.
And we'll close it out with this one because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Paul, stop looking at my science class.
I'm sorry.
You would fail if you looked at my answers. 1, 2, 3, 6 teams. Think outside the box. The kind of basketball schools.
Baylor?
Baylor's one.
Okay, how is Baylor and Utah all that different?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
how are they all that different?
Utah's not really a basketball school.
No, but
Baylor's only in this category because they have a good basketball team.
I think it's just to kind of have a little bit of like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my project. I'm not trying to like pick on whoever. I'm just saying like that doesn't.
Yeah, Kentucky. Sure, there's a better chance this tier sends multiple teams to the Final Four than the college football playoff in the coming seasons. But
because
don't dare call them college basketball schools.
64 extra teams make it. That's the biggest reason why.
Okay, I just gave you a clue.
Baylor, Kentucky, Arkansas.
Arkansas's not in it.
Arkansas's going to win the Natty this year. I'm telling you right now.
North Carolina?
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Houston.
Okay, yeah.
Michigan State.
Okay, yeah.
Wake Forest.
Yeah, I mean,
I always thought of them more as a basketball team. They're getting a lot of love with their football.
Well, not as much
one more in
since
the Big 12.
Quarterback injury. That's the bummer from it all.
One more in the Big 12 that's really been
Texas
pretty
Tech.
No, that's interesting, but they're
Oklahoma
not.
State?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the article.
Yeah, okay.
John Baptist Paul wanted to say that Florida State's now a basketball
I don't know. Would y'all
school.
consider Oklahoma State more of a basketball school at this point?
No, I don't.
No, I don't either. I'd say Texas Tech way more fits that bill.
Yeah, Eddie Sutton's been gone for a while. So,
yeah, for real. I would disagree on a couple. I think Utah and Baylor are like the exact same, except for, you're right. Baylor has a better basketball program by far, but I'd consider them in like that kind of outside on the front porch, knocking on that door pretty hard at this point. I mean, it's been... 2 different coaching staffs over the span of like less than a decade and like 4 different versions of this team that's 1 win away from being in the playoffs. So like, I mean, how much closer can you get than they've been? There's maybe a couple other teams that have knocked on the door as much as they have, but they're right there near the top.
Paul Foster said Kentucky. Jason Osborne said North Carolina. That's not it.
Kentucky with Stoops and what he's doing there with football. Yeah, and that story last week.
Bobby Ryan, Kentucky, Michigan State. There's Donnell, Kentucky. This was as we were asking the question. Phil Venzer said UCLA.
Yeah.
Which we know is an incredibly great basketball history and recently right there on the cusp just 2 years ago in the semifinals without Gonzaga.
Well, that's a team a lot of people are, curious to see with Chip Kelly this year, after what they were able to do last season, how they build upon that and kind of the trajectory now that you've got this little countdown going on where we know with USC and Riley what's up. Like we know he's going to be stashing blue chips and scoring big in the transfer portal and having a high-flying offense and all that jazz. But with UCLA, kind of how do they ramp up towards that ultimate exit will be fascinating to see.
Well, Chip needs some more cachet. Like he lost his Oregon juice a long time ago.
And then the Eagles. We come back. Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll and Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Cyclone 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak on this Tuesday afternoon. We appreciate your time, Mac. Thank you very much. So Don Williams, who covers Texas Tech, said that Brett Yormark had been to various places and mentioned that today might be Stillwater and tomorrow could be Waco. Is he going to be on your campus tomorrow?
He is, and we're excited to host him here for a half a day. And I think he'll enjoy spending time with some of our coaches and our student athletes, and should be a really good day.
What is kind of the central theme of? Is it kind of just get to know you, or do you kind of roll out some things that, as you as an institution, would like him just to start thinking about?
Oh, I'm going to start pushing immediately for Baylor to receive a larger revenue distribution. That's in the works. No, it's we I think the membership we certainly appreciate Brett wanting to get out and to, come to each of the campuses and just to get a feel, for who we are, each university, each institution, each athletic department, spend some time visiting with some folks. And, the visits have been, pretty similar. He wants to meet with, some specific people, some specific coaches. And I think it's also an opportunity for us to, share a little bit about, who we are and our vision and, our thoughts, at least, Baylor specific for the next 5 years. Talk about some of those things.
Mack, what is the biggest surprise so far since you first, I guess, met Brett Yormark or got to know the name? What has been most surprising to you at this point?
That's a great question. I think it goes back to, obviously, when you look at his background and his track record, there's nothing in the area of college athletics, and there's quite a bit going on in college athletics right now, as you all know. And I think just again, you've heard me mention it before, his willingness to be vulnerable and to ask for help, and again to not to pretend to know what he doesn't know. And he's, I think he's been really, really good in terms of listening and asking for advice, for opinion. And I think that's resonated really, really well with the membership. And at the same time, he's got a lot of ideas and how we make the Big 12 different. So, but I think just the surprise, just his willingness to be transparent and candid about what he knows and doesn't know.
Mack, do you know or not know anything new with the Big Ten announcing their deal last week? And what was your reaction to what they did? And anything that's, if you could even mention it, that's on the horizon involving the Big 12?
Yeah, no, we all knew that, the deal was coming, and, certainly there was a lot of conversation, obviously publicly, about ESPN not being involved. And, I think obviously it's a pretty extensive agreement, obviously lucrative. But I think what's really best about it is the 6 different platforms, across Fox, and that includes the Big Ten Network and CBS, and 2 platforms, NBC, right, the linear and then Peacock. So, I think it certainly, provided obviously clarity, who's in, who's out, right? What does that mean in terms of ESPN? I don't know that it means that, now ESPN is ready to spend a bunch of money elsewhere. They're business people, and ESPN is not in the habit of making bad deals, other than the Longhorn Network. But I don't know. We'll see. There was a comment or two surrounding the deal that that we're not done expanding, and so I think there's that threat out there, and I think obviously I would at least surmise that will probably impact one conference more than the other. And I think finally for the Big 12, we're still being aggressive. We're still looking, what's out there in terms of making us more viable, strengthen our conference, different, and that may or may not include additional member institutions.
Mack, the grant of rights and the term of the deal is shorter, and that's probably going to be par for the course for everybody from now on. Does that make good sense for a conference like the Big 12 to have a shorter deal, or does it make you a little bit nervous that the deal will be shorter based on the fact that, we're kind of sitting on tectonic plates in college football right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, Paul. And, I think it's, threading the needle, so to speak. And, you've got two contrasting deals, right? You've got the Big Ten deal, which you mentioned is shorter. And then you've got the ACC deal, which is until 2036. And again, I'm not saying, I think that deal, when they made that deal, it was absolutely the best decision. But, in many ways, it's provided security and stability for the ACC. But, you're starting to hear publicly that, from a financial standpoint, they're stuck and maybe, may fall behind in terms of revenue. And so I think there's that balancing act. I think if I were, certainly orchestrating the Big 12 and its future, I would bet on that we're going to be a really viable and exciting conference. We're going to be a conference that's going to grow in value and not decline. And so, if it were me, I would certainly be voting for and in favor of a shorter deal. I like, 7 to 8 years, and because of the changing landscape, right, and the way, the revenues and the value of college football continues to rise, and college athletics, I'd want to go back to the negotiating table in 7 years. And again, that's me. I'm taking that bet that the Big 12 is going to continue to grow and even become more and more valuable. And I truly believe it will.
Mack, there was one thing that Kevin Warren said as well that was very interesting. And I know his full HBO interview, I don't believe it's come out yet, but Brian Gumbel asked him about a very specific number of teams. Could you see 20 teams? And he said, yeah, I could see 20. And then everybody's like, he wants 20 teams. And it's like, no, he just said he could see that. And he also mentioned perpetual growth, that he could also see perpetual growth. If you had to guess, what do you think, or how do you take the perpetual growth part of that?
Yeah, here's how I interpret it. It doesn't mean it's right, but I interpret it specifically that there is a vision to get to 20, and that timeline to get to 20 is really, really up in the air, and that's where I think the phrase perpetual growth comes into play. So is that, 2 at a time, 1 at a time? Is that over the next 5 years? Is that, here within the next 6 months? And I think that's all up in the air. But I do think that there's a strong vision for 20. You don't make that comment or not embrace, that question if there's not a true vision for that.
Right.
Mack, the Pac-12 is next, you would think, next on the table based on now the Big Ten releasing what they've done. They're next in line. Of course, you have 3 years with your deal, the Big 12. Can you see in any way, I'm not saying you can predict this, but can you see in any way during the football season this fall that there will be another shift with some sort of realignment news involving the Big 12?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't discount it. It's probably the best way, and there doesn't need to be a story tomorrow in the paper that says, that Mack Rhoades said that.
I'm deleting it. And don't worry about it.
But, I don't know that sitting here today that I could say, yeah, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. I think, that there's still a lot of possibilities on the table, and none of them may play out, or some or all may play out, and could certainly some of them play out during the season. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know there's anything magic about it waiting until the end of the season.
Well, I'll just ask you this as a follow-up, just so we know, we can plan. Do you have even like a 3-day weekend planned in the fall to get away?
Yeah, I'm no more trips into Mexico for a while. So,
well, damn. That's not good news for us. It gives us something that's going to spark. There's going to be a forest fire or something like that. On a scale of 1 to 10, from the day that it was announced, the latest part of college football with USC and UCLA, to where you felt on a scale of 1 to 10 with positivity for the future, the Big 12, where are you today compared to what that number might have been back in July?
Yeah, I think I was optimistic. Really optimistic back then, and I don't think it's changed. I think I struggle candidly with patience, and want everything to happen today or tomorrow. So maybe that's diminished a little bit of my optimism, but I'm still absolutely positive. And so to answer your question, I've done a great job this interview, I think, of not really answering any of your questions. But I think, probably, a 9, 10, back then. And I don't think I'd come off that number. I'm still extremely optimistic about the future of the Big 12.
Are you running for political office?
Never.
Yeah, smart.
Very
move.
smart. Very, very smart. Mack Rhoades, Baylor, Director of Athletics, with us, sick on 365 Radio.
Mac, I don't know what everybody that covers college football is going to do when we actually have to cover games here in about a week and not talk about, everything off the field. But how do you guys feel like preparations are going, just the final touches and all the things as your fall semester, classes are beginning and just everything starts to kind of get underway? How do you feel about the state of things?
Yeah, this is the best time of the year when you kind of reunite with your student athletes. And although we've got many here during the summer, but classes start back up again. The campus is vibrant. It's exciting, right? We have soccer competing. We have volleyball competing and cross country, and obviously football versus Albany on September 3rd. So, just a lot of energy and excitement. And, I think, specifically when we think about football, I'm certainly not the head coach, but just through my many conversations with Dave and in my own eyes, I really like where our team is at right now. I think, Saturday's scrimmage was really, really good. I thought execution, energy, all of those things. Certainly it's not a game, and we've got some really young, talented players in the skill positions that are going to have to do it under fire. But I really like the team and how close knit it is, and so again, really, really optimistic. Obviously, the Albany game will be a great first test for us, and then we're gonna find out how good a football team we are, at least week 2 at BYU, and I certainly don't think that game makes or breaks the season, because obviously 10 more to play, and I think this is a team that will continue as long as we stay healthy. That this is a team, because of some of its youth particularly in the skill areas. I think this is a team that's going to continue to get better throughout the season.
Mack, I did have a question from someone that asked me, and I don't know much about this. I do know that the Jordan brand's a big deal. You guys obviously are a Nike brand, but is there something that's about whether you are a Jordan brand or not? Has that been discussed with Baylor?
No, it really hasn't. It's a great question. I appreciate the question, and it's interesting because there hasn't been a lot of conversation about it, amongst our head coaches and staff. I think we're obviously in a really good place with Nike, and you've heard me talk about my appreciation for them, and being able to sit down and strike an agreement, a deal at a time where not many wanted, there weren't any takers, actually, and to strike what I thought was a really, really fair deal. And so grateful for our partnership with Nike. And, I would suspect that here in the future, it continues to grow. And I know that they really value us and what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Did you see the article by Dave Wilson? You were obviously quoted. Dave was at this deal last night, but he also was on our show yesterday. And yet the feature on Dave Aranda, who probably is the one person did not want to feature on him, is Dave Aranda. And did you get a chance to read that?
I did. And, a couple things. One, I really appreciate Dave Wilson and the work and the amount of people that he talked to. He so much wanted to get it right and tell the story the right way. And, he's one of a handful that I really, really think he writes stuff. It's never about him or how good he looks as the author. It's really about, the story impacting others. And so, grateful to him. I mean, he talked to a lot more people than what was quoted in the article. So thought it was really thoughtful and well done. And, and I don't know if I should share this or not, but I will, because I think it speaks to it. But I talked to Dave about it, and I just said, this is a form of leadership, right? That we don't talk about much, but I truly hope that every one of our football student athletes read the article, because for him to talk about himself and looking in the mirror and needing to change, and his thoughts on two of his three children, becoming like maybe who he was when he was at LSU, or maybe some previous stops, right? I just thought that vulnerability and that transparency, what an unbelievable leadership example when you think about transparency and vulnerability and knowing who you are. So I thought, look, I know I'm biased, but I thought it was a great article, really, really well done.
Yeah, and there's been some others, but I just thought that this one here was even things that we knew. He didn't copy and paste them about certain things he said. He went deeper into them, and so did Dave. And I think that's great. What people were able to learn a little bit about him. Mack, thank you very much. The countdown to the season is around the corner, if not already underway, and we appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, gentlemen. You guys have a great afternoon.
You too. That's Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, with us on Tuesdays, most every Tuesday, unless he goes on vacation and all hell breaks loose, which is like clockwork.
If you want realignment to enter another phase, then get Mack Rhoades on vacation somewhere, and there will be some movement, because that's pretty much what's happened. I do find it very interesting, though, that he basically confirmed something that Kevin Warren said. I read the transcript that was released from the Gumbel interview, and again, that is not aired to my knowledge. I believe it's tonight, maybe?
Yeah,
I need to double-check that, actually. But that's going to be on Real Sports at some point in full, you would think. And the little teaser that we got really just pertained to a couple of questions in particular. But on the 20-team thing, I'm not going to take anything wrong with it at just face value. So when I'm reading the transcript, And hearing even the clips that they released, that's, you say 20 teams. It's cases, 20 teams. But there was nothing about it that made it like, that's the goal, is 20. It was, could you see 20 teams? Yeah, I could see 20 teams. So my whole thing was like, okay, well, what if Brian, was it Brian or Greg? Brian Gumbel. What if you had asked about 22? What would have been the response? Yeah. I'm thinking it's probably the same thing. 24, same thing. And so our whole deal the other day was like, well, how high, what number could he have said where Kevin Ward have been like, nope, that couldn't possibly happen. Yeah. Like, that's what I would have been interested in, is to know and narrow it down. But then Mack right there, basically, and I know he knows more than we do, and I'm not that he knows the Big Ten's master plan or anything like that, but he sounded pretty confident in believing that the goal was 20 teams.
Yeah. 20 is just a nice round number. Plus, it makes sense for the title because they could be the Big Ten times 2, or they could be, there would be actually 10 teams that'd be pretty big in that. So it would make sense then, as opposed to, the Big Ten and medium 6.
Yeah,
or whatever.
There's someone mentioned this as well, and we appreciate as far as the conference names.
Yeah, it's silly. It's stupid.
It made sense for the longest of times. The Big 8 had 8, and then, of course, the Big 10 had 10, and the Pac-8 had 8, and then 12, and whatever else. And
Big Ten's finally going to be back at 12 after years of being at 10, and they'll actually go from 10 to 14, and then we'll go back to 12 and finally be the Big 12 again for the first time in like a decade or whatever it would have been. But, yeah, and I'm not trying to read too much into his response, but he sounded pretty confident in the 20. And I know that's going to lead to everybody wondering, like I already am, of, okay, well, what does that mean? Because if, you start to put the puzzle pieces together, it goes to show you that, and like the way he said, like the perpetual, because that's what I asked him, is what do you think he meant by perpetual, is to get 220, which I find that very interesting because I'm thinking even bigger picture than that. Mm-hmm. But, that is something that is not on, like, they got to bring in 4 schools all at once or whatever. And so that's, I guess, the next part of the chess game is how they make those moves and who they make those moves with. And then, how does that kind of settle before inevitably years down the road there's some other wave that we're not even thinking of right now. Or it's the ACC play eventually as well, because clearly that's not looking like it's going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah, that's very interesting.
Someone asked, Moondog, he's the one that asked this question in the premium section about bringing up the Jordan gear. TCU and Oklahoma, I don't know who are the Jordan brands. I know Houston's basketball team is. And so with the eventual change in the Big 12, are there any incoming teams? That's not something that I really focus too much on, but TCU, it's a Jordan brand. And
are they?
Yeah, that's the question I got.
In football?
Football,
they wear Jordan jerseys at TCU?
I have read on this site that some are lamenting our football team not having Jordan gear like TCU and Oklahoma.
Okay, well, gear could be like T-shirt and shorts that their basketball team gets, and that's one thing. Like when I think of Jordan brand, what I'm talking about is Oklahoma's got the Jordan logo
on their
their football uniforms. Yeah. They don't wear a Nike swoosh. And I know it's them. It was Michigan, and there's some others, but it's not a Florida. Yep, yeah. Thank you.
Carolina, Howard, UCLA. This is on Nike's. Well, they have Michigan. Yeah. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them. So, they might have like Jordan clothes or something, but I'm pretty sure TC is not. Yeah, they're not a Jordan brand.
And we will accept the Jordan brands if you want to send it to our address here at 101 Elm. All right, when we come back, we haven't had it in a while because practice at Baylor has been interrupting Off the Radar and some of the other segments that are normal. We'll have Chris Vanini, theathletic.com, in an article he and Nicole Arbach teamed up on when it comes to the fast rising of the stars of college sports and athletics under the age of 40. Craig Smoak and Off the Radar next on Cyclone 365 Radio and 365 Sports YouTube.
Richard Carr, and I just checked, OU the only Big 12 brand, so that must be something different that we were looking at, but that'd be cool. Any school that can get Jordan brand, I bet they would jump on that, but if you're looking to get a good deal or just great customer service on your vehicle, Richard Carr is the place to go, the place to be, and the people that you can count on. I've had my car at Richard Carr a couple of different times over the last few months to get fixed up, and even though I didn't buy my car there originally, they've taken care of me like I had done that and like I had been a customer of theirs for years, and so I can vouch personally for the customer service side of Richard Carr's business. But as far as the car buying side, don't wait any longer. If you're in the market for a new car or truck, they are arriving weekly at Richard Carr. Come by or log on to richardcarr.com to view their in-stock inventory. You can also cut in line by getting your name on their inbound vehicle list to reserve a brand new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac before anybody else. But if you need a car today, Richard Carr has new cars and trucks on the lot, over 95 quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them have gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. Plus, you can get top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no. So, for 23 years in Central Texas, count on the people you can count on. Richard Carr, building a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs all during that time. They're run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans and all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right. Welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for Off the Radar. It's been a couple weeks since we've done this, and for those just joining us on Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time, just a little grab bag of sports stories. Most of the time, things that we just typically would not get to because we focus so much on college and pro football, although there will be college and pro football as the news allows. But yeah, mostly things that we just otherwise would not be talking about or spending much time on. Kind of rounded up, and the roundup might have been a good name for this as well. Trademark that real quick, guys. Let's get on that. But that's kind of what this is, a grab bag, a roundup, what have you. So taking a look at various stories of interest going on out there in the world, I thought we'd start off with a little bit of close-to-home action, some Texas high school football news. You know the term Friday Night Lights, and that's a term that is just synonymous now with high school football, not only in Texas where it originated, but across the country now as well, thanks to the book, which turned into a movie and a TV show and spawned various other versions of the movies and TV shows. Varsity Blues is a spinoff of Friday Night Lights. Friday Night Lights, the TV show, is a spinoff of Friday Night Lights. But one of the big faces and the big personalities behind that original story, Gary Gaines, who was a part of Friday Night Lights, is the coach at Odessa Permian High School, passed away at age 73. That was reported yesterday, I do believe. He had been suffering for a while with Alzheimer's, which is just the last thing in the world that you wish on anybody, but finally succumbed to that terrible, terrible sickness. And, passed away at 73, 30 years as a coach. But as ESPN's article pointed out, he's best known as the head coach of Odessa Permian. He was there for 4 years with the Panthers, and a very well-known guy. But that 1988 team, the one that was profiled and just set high school football really on fire forever after, thanks to Buzz Bissinger's book, which I think all of us have already probably read at this point a time or two. But yeah, Gary Gaines, a.k.a. Billy Bob Thornton, the character that he played in the movie, passes away at 73 to Alzheimer's.
And by the way, we will be doing this show from Odessa Permian and
Ratliff Stadium in Odessa a week from Friday. Yeah.
So,
what's really interesting about it? He gets a lot of, he was there, was just 4 years. And of course, that famous 88 game with Carter and all the other, he was there 4 years. And he seems to be the one that's connected to Permian perhaps more than anyone else. And there were some other guys that were incredibly successful, but he was there when it blew up. Yeah. When it all blew up.
I think the most interesting part of that book to me that they captured it.
Boogie Miles, was it the running back?
Yeah, it was.
Booby Miles,
was that the pressure from inside the town of Odessa, that when Gary Gaines would go to the grocery store, he would get asked about winning the state title like he's Nick Saban. And that's not, it's in high school football, it's really... It's hard to win a state title any time, and there's a ton of teams that win them all the time because they're big schools and the talent just kind of grows in a field. But even still, it's really hard, especially in West Texas. People kind of come and go there, and it's hard. And and not only that, the pressure that dripped down to the kids. You're out and you see somebody who won the state title 12 years before you did, and they haven't let it go. That was the pinnacle of their life. Yeah,
I think that Friday Night Lights turned out to be a blessing and a curse in so many ways because yes, it highlights community and it highlights the importance of community and it highlights just the importance of athletics and the role that it plays in young people's lives, both good and bad. And it shed light on overly. I don't know overly is the right way, but those parents that don't know how to just kind of not live through their children, it definitely flashed a light on that. It flashed a light on a lot of different things that maybe we otherwise hadn't really seen a light flashed on when it comes to high school athletes and the passion and the community that comes with it. And that's all well and good. But yeah, I do think it also showed that poisonous side of there's just way too much emotions involved in this high school game and this team and these young men or these young women. And there's a lot of grown people who are putting a lot of pressure on these young people's shoulders that don't necessarily deserve that weight on their shoulders. And so, yeah, I think there's something cool to be said for kind of that high school football obsession that we have in Texas, but there are parts where it can go over the line, and you see that dramatized in every version of those types of stories to some extent. So, yeah, it did well, and it also showed some of the drawbacks, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, and I think you could say that about every single school, and perhaps, I mean, just because of what it means. And, of course, other states have that as well, that thirst of winning, and sometimes the human interest stories that are bad and or amazingly exhilarating.
I would say the difference between where I grew up, where high school football is a relatively big deal, you got a lot of good talent, a lot of good players, is that people don't hang on to it as long. And I think that's kind of what happens here in Texas is you've got people who are 38 years old who still are hanging on to that. And you should just enjoy and release it and enjoy, right?
Yeah, I think, too, though, that's also because people are so easily manipulated that the media kind of did that. The media is sort of the one that made it like, in Texas, it's all about, and it's like that became a Hollywood thing. And I'm like, I don't really feel like it's really that way at all. I don't think it's like, I definitely had friends who played sports who had parents who applied like an extreme amount of pressure. Like but I think that's anywhere in the world that you see that. But they somehow tried to make it like, but it's like the SEC thing. It just means more in Texas. It just means more, to the point where I think there's outsiders who think that we're like obsessed with high school football. And it's like, yeah, to an extent, but it's not like what everybody's walking around concerned with all the time. And that's kind of the impression you get if you just watch Varsity Blues.
Yeah, no, it is a thirst, and it is, I think there are people who are consumed with it.
It's bigger here than anywhere else, no doubt.
It does seem that way, but other states have gotten better, and better along the way. The one coach that was there earlier, John Wilkins, his record at Permian was 148, 16-7 in 13 years. And that's amazing, but Gary Gaines was the one that got most of the attention because of the movie and much more.
Well, the book was written the year that he was the head coach. That's the main reason why. It was in 1988. He was the head coach. Elsewhere, quarterback battle. Actually, one that's new today and one that we didn't talk about at all that we need to talk about. But the first one from today, Washington, UW has named Michael Penix Jr. their starting quarterback, formerly an Indiana Hoosier. He has been named QB1 by Kalen DeBoer. Won the job over Dylan Morris, a sophomore, as well as redshirt freshman Sam Heward, whose last name should ring a bell. But, yeah, it's going to be the Michael Penix Jr. show in Washington.
Yeah, the Hewards are Damon and Brock and everybody. They're royalty in that UW. And Brock, one of the better college football analysts going right now. I really like Brock a lot. But, Sam Heward, who I believe is his nephew, I wasn't really surprised because Penix went there two-star. I mean, like, you don't.
Well, he's not Alan Bowman. Everybody's supposedly supposed to go transfer somewhere to play. Yeah. And Alan Bowman's like the outlier where apparently he just went to Michigan and they're not even exactly sure why. So I
think he maybe misread the situation of how desperate they really were.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel for him if that's the case. But yeah, that definitely was a weird sort of to not even see him involved in the final decision. But speaking of Alan Bowman, he played his college ball previous to Michigan at Texas Tech, and we didn't even mention the other day Tyler Shuck named the starting quarterback for the Red Raiders, the former Oregon Duck. He was there at Tech last year, played a bunch and then got hurt, but Tyler Shuck is Joey McGuire's call. What do you guys think about that?
I think that was to me, I think that's the best call. I think he'll do well with Zach Kittley there. And again, he would have been the starter all last year had he not gotten hurt. So I don't think it was as much of a race as people may have thought it was. But again, with him coming off of injury, and you have Donovan Smith, who played a lot last year.
Donovan Smith's a good-looking cat, man. He's a big dude. Yeah. I think there was a little bit of a fanfare for him to win the job. And then, of course, you got young Baron Morton, who's like the guy that they're waiting on, but I guess is not quite ready. He needs to hibernate a little bit more. But, yeah, I wasn't totally shocked. I mean, given that they're going to be very up-tempo and, electric, I think that Tyler Shuck fits that bill to start things off with.
Put it this way, they got a hell of a quarterback room. A lot of people wish they had theirs. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll see how that works out, but good to see a couple more decisions being made as far as starting quarterbacks go. This is from it's probably too late now at this point. I don't know if we ever mentioned it, though, because I think you were out, but did you ever comment on the fact that Dick Vitale, as of last week, is cancer-free? I don't know if you remember if you mentioned that or not. You may have.
I thought that was something that actually was announced earlier.
Okay.
But Yeah, he's battled back. I mean, and that, I don't know if you saw that feature on him, the profile of him. Obviously, he spoke at the ESPYs with the Jimmy Valvano, the award. But, man, I didn't realize he had skin cancer. And, I mean, his face was grotesque looking because of it. And all the surgeries they had, that was all along with what he was dealing with throat cancer. Phenomenal. And a guy that obviously we love. He's been on this show and can't wait to get him again.
Yeah, no, that was a bit of an last week's story, but you weren't here, so I didn't know if I had mentioned that or not. This one I know you certainly haven't been able to talk about much because it just came down today, but the Washington Commanders, I'm going to have to get used to saying that after a football team last year, announced that Chase Young will start off the season on the reserve, physically unable to perform list, so he will not play in the first 4 games of the season for the Commanders. He opened camp on the active PUP list and had torn his ACL, MCL last November, so coming back from that, but they're not going to have him for the first month of the season.
Well, and he had reconstructive surgery.
They won't have him for the Cowboys and the Eagles' first games that they play
Everything
against them.
the NFL's doing is to set the Cowboys up for early success. They suspended Tom Brady from practice for 2 weeks, even though he said it was personal reasons. It's all part of the plan.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that whole deal with Gronk and Brady in Las Vegas and everything that went down there, but that was a interesting tale to hear Dana White spin from his UFC perch. They had a great weekend this past weekend. I don't know if y'all saw some of the ramifications from the UFC fights. Kamaru Usman loses to Leon Edwards in shocking fashion.
Kicked right in the side of the skull.
Was winning that fight. He's the closest you'll get to breaking Anderson Silva's record that'll probably never be broken now for most consecutive title defenses, just because it's hard to hang on to a belt for a long time. And Usman was closing in on that, and winning the fight, getting all the way to the very end of the fight, and then just getting a head kicked. And that's combat sports, and that's why it's as crazy and fun and exciting as it is because you just never know when they step into the cage, and that was a prime example this past weekend with Kamaru Usman going down. NIL-wise, not a spot that I really report a whole lot on is name, image, likeness stuff, but every once in a while, if there's something pretty cool, I'll pass it along, and I certainly think this is probably long overdue. We all know the Dr. Pepper commercials that you see during college football broadcasts. Been a part of it for a long time now. At this point, the whole Fansville ads that they do. Well, this year you will be seeing Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback, as a part of the Dr. Pepper Fansville commercials. He signed a deal with Dr. Pepper, according to Forbes, so he will be in the ad campaign. And you saw DJ Ukulele last year as part of the Fansville ad, so Bryce Young this time around. And he's been in them before, but this will be he's the spokesperson now at this stage. So I don't know. I probably said the same thing when DJU was on there. But this is the kind of stuff that just makes sense. You should be in a Dr. Pepper commercial if you're the starting quarterback.
Well, especially if you're the Heisman Trophy winner.
And the Heisman Trophy winner,
This one makes a little more sense. DJ, you hadn't done it yet. He was, everybody expected him to be good, so it maybe didn't look as great when Dr. Pepper, he was their guy. But Bryce Young's already won the Heisman. So if you're going to win the Heisman and you're going to be back the next year, you should be getting good NIL deals, and you should be the face of college football.
Wasn't it a year ago that he had already had what Nick Saban said was $1 million,
over $1 million,
combined with all of his NIL stuff?
Yeah, he was one of the first million.
Yeah, good for him.
I think Quinn Ewers was probably the first reported to be, just because it was reported that he made $1 million just to go to Ohio State, which, again, I don't know how accurate all that is, and I really don't care. I don't care what Tennessee's paying their quarterback. I don't care, but it just makes sense. That kind of stuff, Dr. Pepper fan house, that kind of stuff makes all sense in the world. So cool for Bryce Young, but he was a more minor part of it last year. And just a couple more notes here. Max Muncy, former Baylor baseball star, agreed yesterday to a 1-year, $13.5 million extension with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that will keep him through 2023 with LA, and they'll have a club option in 2024, $10 million club option with no buyout. So
he took himself out of a ditch, got sent to the minors, a rehab assignment, or whatever it was, and he's been good for them, man.
Well, he changed his swing.
His batting average is still below 200.
He was struggling there for a little while,
but he's been smoking hot lately, and that's really what matters.
But I think it was a month and a half ago we mentioned him, and he was in a bad hole. Yeah. But he's gotten super hot and being rewarded with another deal, and I think I'll leave it right there for now. Those are a few things off. Oh, by the way, Dennis Rodman is planning to go to Russia to save Brittany Griner. I had seen a story, a follow-up on that, and I believe it was – I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but I believe it was like the U.S. officials were a little bit cautious about the plan of just Rodman going over and saving her. But, like, I mean, at this point –
he's going to win a Nobel Peace Prize for what he's done with China and Russia.
I saw that joke made, and, like, that's actually he very well –
Why does Dennis Rodman translate so well to bat crap crazy countries like North Korea and Russia?
He speaks the same language.
I guess. I mean, it's – of all them, like, oh, well, listen, I don't want to talk to your diplomats, but your craziest basketball player ever, send him over and let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the star appeal of that, but also, like, I will say, it's kind of a joke, but it could turn out true that he becomes a Nobel Peace Prize guy. But the Biden admin apparently said that it could complicate their efforts to release Griner. But I will say this, like, at least he's throwing his name in the hat, and at this point, it's overdue. Like, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of goofy. Get her back, and whether that's with Rodman or not. But just wanted to mention that as well. Those are a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. College sports: 40 under 40 top young coaches, players, executives, influencers changing the game. Nicole Arbach and Chris Vanini had a double-team story on this in theathletic.com, and Chris Vanini will join us next. Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports. They are getting closer and closer, Pioneer Steel and Pipe, to making that big building that they have built, bigger, better, faster, stronger, available for what they do, which is specialize in pipe, metal, and steel. Specialize in what you need the product to build things. Commercial real estate or residential, to do things that, for example, metal buildings is what they specialize in that as well. And they can help you find the right people that they've used over the years or they've known who are really, really good as contractors so you don't have a job that is eventually a nightmare for you. They do an incredible job. And the date of when they opened the doors, and here they are, better than ever. And they've been really, really good with product and customer service. 1943, pioneerboys.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include June. Screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Here's Luke Altmaier. First down, and he's taken down. And it's Terrell Bernard. And he has 15 and a half career sacks now.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Caught my attention very quickly this morning. College sports, 40 under 40, top young coaches, players, execs, influencers, changing the game. Nicole Arbach and Chris Vanini, theathletic.com. Chris Vanini joins us now on 365 Sports. Chris, thank you very much for your time. When did this idea pop in your head?
Well, it's something that Nicole and I talked about doing for years. Really, it's kind of something we always wanted to do. We just weren't quite sure how to organize it. If we wanted to do just college football or if we wanted to do all of college sports. And really, we kind of really got moving on this one a couple months ago when we kind of narrowed it, or I guess broadened it to exactly what we wanted it to be. And then spent the past couple months talking to just a lot of people across college sports about people they think are really good, people they maybe under the radar and don't get a lot of attention.
So, when did it start with coaches? How did it grow out of coaches? And like even throwing athletes in there, and they're obviously all under 40.
Yeah. It's like the idea of doing coaches / administrators was kind of the original idea we've had for a while. I mean, at The Athletic, we've done it in the NFL. We've done it in men's college basketball. We've done it in all of women's basketball. So it started with kind of coaches, administrators. But kind of as we thought about it, there's just so much more to college sports right now. And I think the NFL one that The Athletic did really kind of inspired us in terms of branching out to people in the media space, people in the business space, behind the scenes, TV executives, that type of stuff. Because there's a lot of hands in college sports because of how much has changed, especially with NIL over the last year. TV rights exploding. There's just a lot of different things going on in college sports. It's not just who's playing on the field, which is important. That's why we included athletes. But we wanted to kind of highlight just all the kinds of different people that are involved in the space now.
Well, Chris, one of those people, I mean, let's start off with some Big 12 flavor here. Zach Kittley at Texas Tech, the new offensive coordinator. I know a bit about him because of Western Kentucky and then Houston Baptist prior to that, and players like Jarrett Stearns and Bailey Zappi. But the big hire for McGuire to run that Red Raiders offense in year number one, how much did you get feedback-wise positively on Zach Kittley?
Yeah, I did. I actually did a story in the spring on Kittley as well, talking to Joe McGuire and a lot of people around him. I mean, yeah, a couple of years ago, he was the offensive coordinator at Houston Baptist in the FCS, and they played 4 games in 2020, 4 FBS games. They nearly beat Texas Tech. They put up a bunch of numbers against, I think, North Texas and Louisiana Tech maybe. So he gets hired at Western Kentucky, and they bring his quarterback, his receiver, and everybody with him, and they break all the that Texas Tech used to have, that B.J. Simmons used to have, the passing yards record, the passing touchdowns record, and that was in Kitley's first year as a FBS assistant coach. He's only 31 years old. He started as a student assistant at Texas Tech. He was working with Patrick Mahomes under Cliff Kingsbury back in the day. So he's come up under that air raid system, and Auburn wanted him. Nebraska wanted him. A lot of Power 5 programs wanted him after Western Kentucky, but he's from Lubbock, and he went to Texas Tech, so he wanted to go home.
You know, you mentioned how you guys have been thinking about this project for quite a long time, maybe years back. If you had done this 3 or 4 years ago, Blake Lawrence probably wouldn't be on the list, right, because of what we now have with NIL and Open Doors, and a guy that's been on our show.
Yes, exactly. Open Doors is one of the most popular platforms for athletes and companies to kind of connect and create NIL deals and stuff like that, and they branched out to even more now. Yeah, Lawrence, former Nebraska football player, he really got the foundation of NIL before it even was legal, and so by the time things went forward, Open Doors was there to make a lot of money, make a lot of connections, set up a lot of deals for athletes, and really be one of the top kind of people in the NIL space. And yeah, at 33 years old, this marketing company really took off.
Who was, when you started calling around and just maybe asking for names you hadn't heard before, the name that people like kept repeating a lot?
It's a lot of the administrators, people who may not be as interesting to radio listeners, but people like Alabama's chief financial officer, Kyle Vasey. He's 30 years old. He's a former men's basketball manager at Arizona, followed Greg Burnover. This guy's 30 years old. He's the CFO, chief financial officer for Alabama Athletics. Like that's a pretty big deal. Got a couple other people like that. Yale COO is 40. We had a couple 40-year-olds on the list. Tiffany Grimes, formerly at Alabama, now the deputy AD at Purdue. She's 39. These are people who are potentially future Power 5 ADs and stuff like that in the future. And those are some of the kinds of people we wanted to highlight with this list.
Dan Lanning, Oregon. Marcus Freeman, obviously, is now in charge of one of the great traditional programs in all of football with Notre Dame. What has been the feedback on your list? I know it came out. It's not been out there very long, but what has been some of the feedback you've received, if anything?
It's been very positive from a lot of people in the college sports industry, the various industries, who were really glad that somebody that they worked with got a shout out. So, like I said, maybe about half the people on this list are people most fans won't know. And that was the point, to kind of introduce these people to audiences who may not have known what they do behind the scenes, or rising stars type of things. Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning, Lincoln Riley, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams. They're on the list. They're obviously very, very important. But there was a lot of the other people who are working their way up, who they were very happy to see, hey, I worked with him. I'm glad he got a shout out for this list. He definitely deserves it. And of course, got a lot of, hey, what about this person? What about this person? Oh, yeah. Narrowing it down to 40 was actually very tough. Like we really had a lot of really good nominations from people.
One of the guys that was mentioned, and I'm glad I saw his name, was Eric Grant with the Southland Conference, and what he did when they had people coming in, taking away some of their members. And we had him on. We were at McClain Stadium, and there was a big, huge symposium of a bunch of athletic directors and ADs and all the others. Same thing. And good to see his name on the list for what he's done to help the Southland Conference kind of survive.
Yeah, he joined the conference about a year ago, I want to say, from the Pac-12. He was one of the assistant commissioners there. Comes in last year as a deputy commissioner, gets promoted in April to the top commissioner job. And in that time, Lamar, which had already left for the WAC, decided to come back to the Southland and come back a year early. They're in it this year. And Incarnate Word, which had been considering and planning to jump to the WAC, instead decides to stay at the Southland. So now that conference, very Texas, Louisiana focused regionally, and leaning into that. And talked to some people around that league who said Chris did a very, very good job of developing relationships, getting meetings, making the case for the Southland, and really may have saved that league.
Chris Vanini, The Athletic, with us, SicEm365.com and 365 Radio.
Chris, can you recall a time where so much off the field has been the focus as opposed to on the field in college sports? And how did that play into especially recent events like USC, UCLA? How did that play into maybe some of the decisions you made as well in terms of the big movers and shakers, like an Adam Newman, for example, out of the Big Ten?
Yeah, Adam is the chief of staff, part of the council there for Kevin Warren in the Big Ten. He's quite young as well. He's been with Kevin Warren for a while. Very smart guy who's very involved in a lot of those decisions that are there. We had Derek Crocker. He's a VP of college sports for Fox. He does a lot of selecting of the games. And now that Fox is going to have, the biggest Big Ten game every week moving forward, that's a very, very important role. And Fox has obviously become a lot more involved in college sports. We have some agents in there as well. And that kind of goes back to what I said before. It's like there's the business of college sports is its own whole entire thing now. Like NIL, media rights, all this kinds of stuff. There's so many people trying to get a hand on something because there's so much just money that's in there that's obviously not going to the players at the moment. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we wanted to highlight with this.
At the moment. At the moment.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question. Yeah. The Big Ten made this gigantic TV deal. What are your thoughts on that and your thoughts on Kevin Warren and his search for world domination?
Well, I think that's a good way to put it, honestly. I like it. It's not that it's imminent, but there is a feeling of manifest destiny maybe when you kind of think about what the Big Ten has done to this point. Kevin Warren comes from the NFL. It very much feels like he is trying to create an NFL in college, a nationwide conference essentially that would go coast to coast, and he now has done that. And he's got CBS, Fox, and NBC on board, the three networks that do almost all of the NFL games. And that's kind of where it's going. He said he could see it getting to 20 teams. I do think the Big Ten will expand at some point. I don't think they just want to have those two California teams out west, but I also don't think anything is imminent right away. They could have taken the rest of the Pac-12 if they wanted to. They didn't. They want Notre Dame because that's where the most money is. And so there's going to be a period of time here where you got to figure out if Notre Dame is going to make a decision or not. And then at that point, maybe the Big Ten looks into more. The idea of paying players, something Kevin Warren thrown out there. The Big Ten is very much trying to get in front of this. You saw it a couple weeks ago with Big Ten Media Days with John Clifford and that potential union, not union group involving players potentially at some point. I think Kevin Warren sees and can tell that they're going to have to pay players. Either a court is going to force them to do it, or they're going to decide to do it themselves to get ahead of it. But I don't believe it's going to be out of necessarily the goodness of their hearts and give all the players all the money that they want, because that's not how business works. There's all this money, and they're not going to willingly give these millions of dollars if they don't have to. But they might do it in a way to stave off something more. But I think Kevin Warren sees that is coming down the line at some point.
Chris, what will it be like to actually cover a game? Wins, losses, stats, players, coaches, fans, atmosphere. How do you look forward to that?
Exciting. I'm going to Atlanta for Georgia, Oregon in week 1. I'll be on my couch for week 0, enjoying the couple of games we get there. And this is now really 3 straight years where we've just had so many things happen in the off season. You had COVID, you had realignment, you've got TV deals, you've got more realignment. And it's just like, I'm looking forward to getting back to the games and enjoying a Saturday from noon to however late you want to stay up past the Hawaii game of just watching college football. Very much looking forward to that.
Yep, we all are.
And thanks to Kevin Warren, pretty much that whole time you can watch Big Ten games now, or starting here very soon. If they just add Hawaii, they'll have everything. Yeah, basically time slot wise. But yeah, fascinating stuff, and I'm with you, man. It's good to have the season around the corner, but it does make all the rest of it quite spicy and interesting along the way. I enjoy the other stuff as well.
Yeah, it's a year-round sport now. It is a full year-round sport, just like pro sports, really.
Hey, Chris, great stuff. I love the idea. I do, and I love the way you kind of integrated, both of you did, different parts of it, not just coaches or players or whatever, but those involved in what basically is now the web of different parts and angles of college football. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for having me.
That's Chris Vanini, theathletic.com. If you have not read the story, if you're a member of The Athletic, which is an incredibly good buy, if you want to get the monthly subscription, it's very, very strong. And I love the way they really didn't just say the obvious. There's some that are obvious. Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, Marcus Freeman, among a couple of others. But I like the way they went deeper into that as well. When we come back, we'll have Hall of Fame columnist John McClain, his thoughts about many things with the NFL season just around the corner, but always something else that John has that he wants to share with us as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The Wine Fest in Woodway, September the 9th at the Carleen Bright Arboretum and the Pavilion. It is September the 9th. The Wine Fest. Get your tickets by going to discoverwoodway.com. Doors open at 6 o'clock that night. Jacko Pierce concert will begin at 8, and tickets are only $35. Join Discover Woodway for the annual Woodway Wine Fest featuring Jacko Pierce. And I think what I'll do is I'll go in the premium section and give somebody a set of 4, a pocket of 4 tickets for that. So stay tuned for that as well. You could also keep up with your city, the city of Woodway, at your fingertips with the app as well. Download the app and keep up with whatever they do. And if you are in town for a football game and you have not already secured a hotel room or 2 or whatever, Woodway has 7 hotels within their particular city structure as well. You can go to discoverwoodway.com for that. Discoverwoodway.com. Again, it's the Wine Fest, September 9th with Jacko Pierce. Discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
We kind of call ourselves the Wedding Ring Store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, who, when he puts somebody up for the Hall of Fame, it's not completely a given. But what he did for Chuck Howley, one of the greats in Cowboys history, and the stories behind Chuck Howley and who he did his research and who he heard from, Rick Gosselin, among others. How proud are you still to this day, John, about Chuck Howley getting into that next level?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you guys a story. As you know, I volunteered to present him, and he got it. And he has Alzheimer's really bad. Chuck's 86. He lives at home. He lives next door to Roger Staubach, and his wife also has Alzheimer's. Fortunately, they have the resources to have round-the-clock care. So when I talked to his son, Scott, I asked Scott, does Chuck, any chance Chuck has a clue that he's in the going to be in the Hall of Fame? And Scott said, well, there's no way of knowing. I mean, we just don't know. I called him. I said, Dad, you're in the Hall of Fame. Good. And he hung up. And he said, he could have thought I was telling his son was shining. So Scott asked me last week, where do you live? I said, Houston. He said, is there any way you could come up here and meet my dad? And maybe if you tell him he's from the Hall of Fame, it might help. So I couldn't say no. So I went Sunday to stay with Tony Peterson, another Waco native who worked at the Trib, former Chronicle sports editor, who's the head of communications at SMU. And Tony also, like me, grew up a diehard Cowboys fan watching Chuck Howley on the Doomsday defense. I told Scott I'd be bringing a friend. We go over there at 11 o'clock. We go in. Chuck looked good. He was in a wheelchair. He's got his hair. He looked a lot younger than 86. I shook hands with him, very firm handshake. So I talked to him about the Hall of Fame, being in with Landry and Schramm and Gil Brandt and Roger Staubach and Bob Hayes and Mel Renfro, the players he played with. And he would just kind of nod his head, and he would look at his caregiver and just kind of say something. And Scott said, just say, yes, Chuck. And so then we went to see his trophy room, which was very, very impressive. And then we went back to the dining room, and I sat there and shook his hand multiple times, told him I'd see him in Canton, told him again the same things. I'd say, Chuck, do you realize you're in the Hall of Fame? And he just kind of was, who knew? So I left and went back to Tony's, got my car, drove back to Houston, and about just after I got outside of Dallas, I got a text from his son, Scott, said, you won't believe this. After we left, whatever the caregiver's name was, told Scott that his dad straightened up, looked him in the eye, said his name, and said, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I need a new suit, and then started crying.
Oh, that's great.
That's a great story.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Unbelievable. Yeah, man, you should be so proud. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. Good for Chuck Howley as well. That's incredible.
The guy, one of the things I told people, Chuck Howley was famous for being the only player from a losing team to be voted Super Bowl MVP. He forced 3 turnovers in 16-13 loss to the Colts in the Super Bowl 5. And then the next year, Bob Lilly told me he could have been the MVP. He had 2 more turnovers, set up a touchdown and a field goal, but Staubach got it. And then Lilly called him a turnover machine, and I looked it up. Ali still, even though he retired 49 years ago, has the second most takeaways of an outside linebacker in NFL history. He and Jack Ham, who's in the Hall of Fame, his 6 interceptions in 68 are still the second most by an outside linebacker in a 4-3. And back then, everybody played a 4-3. And 5 turnovers in 2 Super Bowls back to back has never been done. So, and then he had 6 he went to 6. He went to 6 Pro Bowls back when the Pro Bowl meant something, but he also was first team All-Pro 5 times and second team once. And there was nobody else on our 12 finalists who went as many times as Chuck Ali. So I don't know why he got overlooked all those decades, because anybody like me who watched him in the 60s and early 70s knew he was such a great player. And Bob Lilly said there would not have been a doomsday defense without Chuck Ali. So he still has the formality of being voted in, but that's a lock, because we, the big committee, we rubber stamp the seniors and the coaching / contributor nominees.
John, I was going to ask you, how does a guy like Chuck Ali get kind of caught in the wash there? Because there's sometimes, like wide receivers a few years ago, there were just so many that retired around the same time. You can't put in 7 guys, all right then. You can't, then it doesn't really make the class exclusive. But for a guy like Chuck Ali, it really does seem strange that those stats were lost to history for so long.
Paul, I don't know. He had 20 years of modern eligibility. You got to be retired for 5. Then you have modern eligibility for 20. And if you don't get in, you go to what the late Paul Zimmerman used to call the swamp. And every year there was 1 senior nominee. Then we got it 2. And this year, for the first time, 3, because there's over 50 guys who were all decade and have never even been a finalist, like Chuck Ali, for one reason or another. Nobody ever said Chuck Ali doesn't deserve it. I was surprised when the 12 of us on the seniors committee voted, because nobody said, let's put Chuck Ali on there. It just, when the voting for 12 came out, he was on there, and I was stunned.
John,
tell you guys right quick, something is weird. Excuse me, Craig.
Go ahead.
I used to play like I was Chuck Ali in the yard. Neighborhood kids, we'd play. We all loved the Cowboys. I was 8 when they were formed in 1960. Howie got there in 61 with Bob Lilly. And then I'm thinking, here I am standing in his house and looking at all these trophies he won when I watched him play. And I'm like, how did I get from playing him in the backyard, shaking his hand right now, and helping him be a senior nominee for the Hall of Fame? It just boggles my mind.
John, I know there's some sad news in the Texans community with the passing of Jamie Roots. Any thoughts on your experiences with him and just the story itself? I know is sad, but any thoughts on Jamie Roots?
I knew Jamie Roots for 22 years. He came to the Texans in 2000, 2 years before they started playing. Bob McNair hired him to run marketing. He was recommended by Lamar Hunt. Lamar ran Major League Soccer, and Jamie was with the Columbus Crew, and he recommended him, and Bob hired him. Then he promoted him to president. He was a guy that was sell. Every game with him as the president before the pandemic sold out, regular season and preseason. They didn't always show up, but he sold them. And then he resigned in 2021. He was immediately miserable, thought he wanted to teach and write books, taught at University of Houston, taught at Sam Houston State, took a job with the Houston Dynamo for 4 days, and then quit. And they gave me a fundraiser, Salute to the General for Charity, about 3 months ago, and he headed the committee that put it together, and he sold so many sponsorships. And we gave Be an Angel Foundation much more money than they thought they were going to get. But he played a lot of golf, but people, his close friends, knew he was miserable. Nobody knew he was that miserable to kill himself while his wife was in Fort Worth taking his daughter into TCU. and she came home and found him dead. And people here, as you can imagine, are just in shock.
Yeah, that's very sad. And for those that don't know, if I clarify, former Texans president Jamie Roots, who passed away, I believe it was just yesterday. So, yeah, very sad stuff there. On the brighter side, John, I did notice one of your retweets. I was planning on asking about him, but Grayland Arnold over there on the Texans, former Baylor defensive back. I know Lovey had some positive comments on him, but he's kind of a fringe guy. I mean, just his career thus far, what kind of a chance does Grayland Arnold have of sticking around with the Texans?
He had a really good training camp. And in the game at the Rams, he forced a turnover, knocked down a couple passes, made a couple of tackles. And if the officials hadn't blown it on the last play, he would have had another takeaway. But because the clock expired, they didn't look at it because he had one clear as day, as you could see on the play and on the replay. So I thought Arnold would not have the chance to make the team, maybe the practice squad, but they have 4 new starters in the secondary. And today after practice, I talked to Jalen Petrie to tell him, the coaches and players think he's doing great and he's doing everything he did at Baylor. And I brought up about Arnold, and he said, he balling. And between him, Petrie, and Arnold, and the greatest snapper in the history of the NFL, John Weeks, Baylor is well represented. Drew Estrada got hurt, and he hadn't done squat.
Yeah, and, there was a stretch, I don't know what day it was, but it was NFL preseason, and you could see the information coming down. Obviously, Terrell Bernard had a scoop and score. Then,
that was first week. Yeah,
and then Petrie had a tackle for a loss, and then there was Ebner on the throw.
Tyquan also had a touchdown. Tyquan's hurt. Treston Ebner's hurt.
Yeah.
So, it's a little bit different in week 2.
Have you seen much of a change? They changed up the way the preseason is now, John. Is it working?
Like the Texans, Lovey's going to play his starters a lot Thursday night against the 49ers. It's Amazon's first game for all those hundreds of millions or billions they paid for streaming rights. But Lovey needs Davis Mills, who's not been sharp in preseason, needs to play. He needs to play with the starters who've been kept out, like 3 of the offensive linemen haven't started. Brandon Cooks, his favorite receiver. They need those guys in there because he needs to work. Some teams are holding all their guys out, so coaches have not decided what philosophy they want to use. I do know this. Most of them would rather have joint practices than preseason games.
Yeah, I agree. And heck, those joint practices I think are more intense than the preseason games. That's when guys get tired of beating up on each other.
Look, Matt Rule and Bill Belichick, I mean, they had to – I'm surprised they didn't hose their guys down after those 2 days.
Well, that's the drawback of joint practices. They don't like fights. And yet they do have them. They're inevitable. It's hot. They hit each other. I've been 2 places with the Texans where they had to stop the joint practices early because of fighting, once in New Orleans, once at Washington's training camp in Richmond, Virginia, and that's not what the coaches want. But still, they get more out of it because they can control everything. In this last preseason game, it's not about making the team. Coaches know who's going to be on the team. They've had them throughout the offseason, OTAs. They've seen them behind the scenes in the classroom. They know their level of intelligence. So really, this one, for some people, like the Texans, is about getting sharp for the opener, but others is just let a lot of scrubs not going to be on the team go at it, and at best they're going to make the practice squad.
John, what's the story behind Brady being gone from practice?
I loved the story last week by a woman on the internet who said he was being the Masked Singer, which is a Fox show, and that he committed to it when he thought he was retiring. And she even told some song by a famous artist called 7 Rings. Now, everybody shot it down. He said he was on vacation with his family in the Bahamas. Well, if that's the case, why didn't he just say, hey, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks because I promised Giselle and the kids when I was retired, so I'm going to do it, and that'd be it. So I'm wondering if he is indeed the Masked Singer. He can't let it out. The whole show, which I've never seen, is about surprise, and we're not going to know till the season's over. But they sure botched it if it was just a vacation with his family.
Yeah, John, I'm shocked you've never sat down and watched The Masked Singer. From the promos, it seems like a joculous time of revealing celebrities.
I have no interest in watching Rudy Giuliani, Antonio Brown, and some of these other quote-unquote celebrities sing while they're disguised. And I think that Gronkowski do it, considering he's 6'6".
Yeah.
You know, if I saw anybody 6'6", I'd start picking basketball players and maybe some tall football players.
John, Baker Mayfield got named the starter for the Panthers, which I don't think should be much of a surprise, even though he did get there kind of late. I've thought that while I'm in no way telling people that he's going to win a Super Bowl, that he gets kind of a raw deal with his public perception. Do you think that the criticism of him is totally fair?
If you would ask anybody that covers Browns, they'd say absolutely, because he warred with them from the first year. But the fact is, he was healthy 2 years ago. That he was the first Browns quarterback since '69 to win a playoff game on the road. But then he got hurt last year, and it all fell apart. And when he's healthy, he's been good. If he's healthy and he's got Christian McCaffrey with him, if he's healthy, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't upset the Browns in that first game against Jacoby Brissett. But as far as he's feisty. You know, he walked off news conference one time because he didn't like a question. So he went to war with them. They won. He's gone. And you know he'd love to stick it to the Browns, and he loved to stick it to the media critic.
John McClain, who, as we said off the top, well, he said when Craig asked him about Jamie Roots, I've known him 22 years. You do how many shows a week? Your mind still amazes me, John. How many different talk shows do you do? 5, 6, 7, 8, what?
11 shows in 6 cities, 3 podcasts. I'm about to start a new job with 2 podcasts. And then I'm going to start writing 6 times a week in 2 weeks. I'll let y'all know what it is next week. Did I tell you guys last week about, about all the Baylor commits who were on the excuse me, 5 Baylor commits were on the all-Houston area preseason football team.
No, you did not.
Touchdown Club of Houston.
No, you did not.
I was a speaker. Wade Phillips was being honored as Touchdowner of the Year. And because they introduced those kids, usually they have one or none. And when I got up on the podium to speak, I said, let me tell you 5 who've committed to Baylor. And those of you who haven't committed, you should seriously consider Baylor. And I said, as a proud graduate from 1975, Baylor's got a great thing going on. And I'm going to teach you 3 words that you're going to know a lot. Stick 'em Bears. And I did that, and they couldn't do anything about it. I don't know if I broke NCAA rules by telling the kids that had not committed to go to Baylor. And afterward, a tight end named Hawkins Polly from Stratford High School here came up with his dad, and he brought a friend of his, and his best friend on the team. And I said, well, where are you going? He said, well, I'm kind of narrowed it to Stanford and Vanderbilt. And I said, well, you need to go to Baylor with your good buddy. And I said, I'm going to spread the word down in Waco, that you'd love to be considered by Baylor. And so it was fun talking to him. Hudson Hawkins Polly's going to be a journalism major. I gave him my cell, told him, text me anytime. I'll help you as much as I can. And he and his dad were just great. And I met one more and his dad. Can't remember their name, but I'm fired up to see if these kids are on the team when it's after the season and they have another big event. But Baylor is kicking some serious butt off the field, not just on the field.
John, I wouldn't worry about NCAA rules. I don't think there are any anymore.
We could have all said that at the same time. You didn't break anything. There are no rules now.
I'm sorry I couldn't say, hey, you guys are uncommitted. Would you like $1 million to go on Sikkim Sports once a week.
Yeah,
I wish I could have done that.
We do that, and I think some of us have been doing the NIL deals. Paul did a bunch with the offensive linemen. By the way, when he mentioned Stanford and Vanderbilt, that's pretty impressive. That were two schools that he was looking at. The other young man looking at to play college football at those two places that never did contact me when I was younger. I know that for sure. John, we appreciate you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Sikkim. John McClain, Hall of Fame. What a memory, Hall of Fame columnist. What an incredible memory that he has. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Shop with us today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 coaches that I think need more time. Give them a little bit. Don't turn the hot seat up on them. Unless it really just hits the wall embarrassingly. Then you may have to. But these are guys I think that, let them see what they've got, considering that they were building out of something that was different. Number 5, and I know there's a lot of West Virginia fans who will not agree with me, but now that he's got Graham Harrell in tow, I think you need to give Neil Brown let Graham Harrell have 2 seasons and not just 1.
God, we have some great West Virginia fans who watch this show.
But West Virginia fans are not at all sold on Neil Brown. But I think if Graham Harrell can help and they show some progress here this year, let him have another year, even if it may not be what you want. But the quarterback play has been a big problem. Maybe JT Daniels solves that, but I'd like to see Neil Brown get another year after this. But again, I'm not a West Virginia fan, and I'm not in that room. So,
I mean, I'm a big Neil Brown fan, but like, what do you constitute as deserving another year?
I would say 7-5 gets him another year to me.
A bowl game?
Yeah, a bowl game gets him another year to me. But
all right, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think he's a good coach. I have no idea what their identity is supposed to be. I have no idea what West Virginia football's about, other than just stuff that I basically picked up over the years, whether Holgerson was the coach or any other number of people. So I feel like kind of need to know, like, what's that look like 5 years from now if he sticks around?
Yeah.
And, you know, if they win 7 games, that'd be 5, 6, 6, 7 his first 4 years. So if that's enough for you to go like, yeah, I mean, he's clearly going to break through here soon, then I'm all with it. But yeah, I think he's got to show a little something this year, because just making a bowl game, you know, and barely doing it at that is not going to cut it up there. But I do like Neil Brown, so I'm not rooting for his demise by any means, but I think he's got a little show a little oomph. And not just, you know, make a bowl game.
Yeah. Number 4, Jed Fish from Arizona. Look, this is a team that has been mired in a long time. And if they don't show something right away, plus everything that's going on in Arizona and the Pac-12 right now, I think that you just need to stay the course and let things build here. Not to, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, I got to start over again, because that's just going to get you in a cycle that you're never going to get out of a new coach every 2 or 3 years, a new coach every 2 or 3 years. If you like this guy, let him actually recruit to that university. Let him adjust to what's going to be the new reality in the Pac-12 that he's going to have to, because now, you know, LA cannot be as big of a selling point as it once was here in a couple years, especially with the classes he'll be recruiting. Let him find that footing recruiting-wise. And here's the other thing. Your rival school across the state, Arizona State, is probably going to have to fire their coach and athletic director at the end of this year. So you have a chance to have some continuity while they're rebooting.
You know, they're just both out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Herm Edwards brought a little smoke, a little zip to Arizona State. And then, of course, there was the dark cloud about what happened during the COVID year. But, man, those two schools are just out there.
Yeah.
And I hope that they're a part of the Big 12 in the future. But
I don't really – I mean, I don't know. I'm cool with it if they are. I'd rather have Arizona than Arizona State, just given the state of Arizona State's football program. And I realize that Arizona went 1-11 last year. But, like, they, at least to my knowledge, don't have all the extracurricular, you know, issues that Arizona State's still going to have to answer for. He can't, like, I'm with you, Paul. He needs time to grow, but you can't go 1-11 again.
No,
like, you cannot, you can't go 2-10. You got to show some. I mean, I'm not saying you got to make a bowl game either, but you know, you can't go 1-11 again, because there's got to be some type of growth there. So yeah, barring something along those lines, or even like a 2-10, to where it's just there's just not really even a pulse there. I'm with you. I think you got to give him some time to kind of clear the air and establish himself. But, yeah, you got a little bit of a slippery slope.
Win a game or two you're not supposed to win, which, of course, would be twice as many as last year.
Yeah. Number 3, Jeff Scott at USF. This is a guy who, if you look at Coach's Hot Seat website, is always there at the top. But I do think that might be a little unfair given the, you know, what he stepped into. There's been, you know, 2 coaches between him and Willie Taggart, which was their last big wave of success. He just got Gary Bohannon in at quarterback. He's got some stability there. They're trying to get a new stadium. I get, like, if they really fall on their face because they're trying to get that new stadium finally built, you know, on campus or at least a lot closer to the campus than Raymond James is. I get it, but this is a guy who was at Clemson before and is a great offensive mind. He'd be an offensive coordinator again in 2 seconds. I would say let him maybe grow into his head coaching chops a little bit more.
How many years does Bohannon have left?
2.
2,
yeah. There you go. Okay, well, that if they can have some traction, and then you have him coming back, that won't hurt.
Yeah, I think it's 2. I mean, shoot, he could be playing 5 years from now and have like a bunch of hardships for all we know, like with the way it is, and not complaining. It's just that I have a hard time remembering who all's what eligibility at this stage.
I agree.
So yeah, I do think he has 2 remaining, which is great for the Bulls. But yeah, they need a little zazz. They need a little something there. kind of like what they were sort of starting to experience not that long ago, really. And then, I don't know, was it with the Charlie Strong era, it kind of plateaued a little bit, and now it's just sort of there,
Who was the one that won there, Levitt?
Yeah, Jim
Levitt won and Willie won.
That's right.
Willie won.
Willie won all the way to 2 jobs in like 2 years, major college football jobs, Oregon and Florida State.
Yeah. Speaking of that, number 2, Mike Norvell. I've ridden a roller coaster with Mike Norvell. After the Jacksonville State game last year, I was as beside myself as I could possibly be. Not just because they lost, but for the explanation that he gave about we were worried about their timeout. There's 6 seconds left, man. If they can complete a 30-yard pass and get up and call timeout, then that's the fastest thing that's ever happened.
What's the lowest level with them? What do they have to win?
They have to win 6 or 7 games. They absolutely have to. They got to be in a bowl game. I think they have a good shot at winning 7, but their schedule's tough. I mean, I think that's the other thing that people need to realize, that they've got Clemson, Florida, Miami all on their schedule every single year. Louisville's in kind of a similar situation where that needs to be a big win, and they've got a really good quarterback. NC State's on their schedule. They have got some tough games.
That would have been LSU difficult back when they were really, really good. They'd win most all of them. But
if they can beat LSU in New Orleans in that first week, then their attitude will probably change, because they'll actually be playing with some confidence. But I do think that people need to back off, because this was top-down administration-wise an absolute poo show at FSU that he came into. A poo show. And I will say that because this is supposed to be a clean show. But it was athletic director who was interim for 7 years, essentially, a president that was trying to retire, a booster club that was run like it was 1986. I mean, these are what he walked into there, and they're finally correcting these issues. And sometimes it's not about the knowledge of the guy. You've got really smart coaches who've been completely screwed over because the place they decided to take a job was just a dumpster fire.
So they did all that in less than 10 years? Went from national title with Jimbo to dumpster fire that quickly, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what to think on Norvell. I know this is the least amount of juice that Florida State's probably had in my entire life as far as the program goes. And so that, I mean, we're going 30 plus years of Florida State being, part of the big conversation, and they just don't really feel that way right now. So that's part of the build down to, or the breakdown to build up, and he's doing some of that. By the way, going back to USF for a second, their opener, BYU, they got Florida on the road in week 3, at Louisville in week 4, and at Cincinnati in week 6. So good luck, Bulls and Gary Bohannon, with that first 6 weeks of the season. It's going to be tough. But, yeah, I mean, Norvell seems like he's definitely on the hot seat. But to what extent, I mean, you know better, and I don't know enough.
He is. And it does not help that one of the most famous alums,
Dion,
if not the most famous alum, is stealing recruits for them at Jackson State. It does not help. And, whether Dion can coach at that level, which who knows?
Okay, he shouldn't. I love what Dion's doing at Jackson State. I love some of the little TV things he does in the camera. They can't let him do that. He just can't.
Yeah.
Be better.
Yeah.
Do what?
Steal recruits.
He's done a remarkable job. He's given that program more attention than since Walter Payton was there.
I say steal recruits. That's not but I mean, nab them.
He's doing his job. Yeah,
doing his job. Convincing the number 1 recruit in the country who is going to be the guy who had to flip the attitude. And number 1, the ultimate wait and see guy. And I think he probably has this. Leap hole.
There's no need to wait. This guy has to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I said just let him. People shouldn't get mad at their ups and downs. He has stepped into what is a ground up situation, and they're still trying to dig out from what they did at Mangino when he left and all that. This guy should get 10 years if he needs it.
Yeah, they had a couple of coaches that the national media slobbered all over and fell over themselves to go and cover that basically turned it into a dumpster fire. Yeah. But Lance Leipold is a terrific coach. I think the longer he sticks around, the better and quicker quick Kansas will get better. I think that he's a great hire to have for them right now. My only question is how long can they actually keep him?
Yeah.
Because he could win 3 games and get like a major job based off of that because of that's how bad Kansas has been, But I do think if somebody could turn it around and stick it out, it would be him. But I just think he's a really good football coach. There might be some others that come, barking, even if Kansas isn't knocking on the door of bowl eligibility anytime soon. So hope the Jayhawks can keep him around because I do think he's a hell of a football coach. And there are definitely at least some pulse. There was some pulse last year, which is the first time we've seen that in a while.
He's got something between his neck, in his neck. I like the way he's got that old school grind. That's probably, hopefully, they've tried everything else is what they need. Okay, Paul, thank you very much. Levi Caraway, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, Jacob Wilson, and also Garrett Ross. All of them behind the scenes, but very much a part of what we do every single day. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Thanks, Craig Smoak. Thank all of you for being a part of the chat. Thanks to the text line, those of you on there as well. I'm David Smoak and our great sponsors that bring this every day to you. Back again tomorrow at 3. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.